You're a person preparing for UPSC 2024 but have missed out on current affairs. Do not worry. I bring to you the June current affairs compilation. This is a current affairs marathon class and I have formulated different segments for your convenience so that you do not fall behind on any subject's current affairs. First, let's start with the question of polity. We will cover the questions of polity first. Later on, we will jump on to history. First, let's talk about sedition. Although it has been repealed, but a question can be asked because UPSC can ask the historical perspective. Consider the following statements with respect to sedition. The word sedition was dropped from the Constitution after 1947. It applies only when words written or spoken excited disaffection against the government of India. Apart from Bal Gangadhar Tilak, the only other freedom fighter to be tried under sedition was Mohandas Gandhi. The UK abolished sedition through the Coroners and Justice Act of 2009. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? Make sure you subscribe to StudyIQ IAS English so that you do not miss out on current affairs. I also conduct the daily current affairs classes bit by bit. If you watch that, thereafter you watch the marathon, it is going to help you a lot. Do you know the colonial government was so insecure that it put sedition in the Constitution of India? Yes, it was in the Constitution of India. However, K.M. Munshi ji was the one who ensured that it is dropped from the Constitution. It could keep on reflecting in the IPC section 124A. Now it has been repealed. First statement is definitely correct. It is not only through words written or spoken, but also through signs and visible representation where a person could have done sedition against the government of India. So that makes the second statement incorrect. UPSC can confuse you with all this. So here it is written only words written or spoken, right? Second statement is incorrect. Not only Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi ji, but people such as Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Shri Shankaracharya have also been tried for sedition. So third statement is incorrect. The UK in 2009 through the Coroners and Justice Act ensured that it is abolished. So fourth statement is correct. First is correct. Second and third are incorrect. Fourth is correct. Two only will be the correct answer. It was in the IPC as section 124A. It said not only words but signs, visible representation could also induce sedition, where against the government of India, a person can bring or attempt to bring contempt or hatred. But now it has been repealed in a sense that it is the unity and integrity of India and not the government of India. And the punishment has also been enlarged. Earlier it was in sedition, it was 3 years, up to 3 years or life imprisonment, fine, etc. But now it is up to 7 years or life imprisonment. Moving on, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was tried and convicted twice. Maulana Muhammad Ali, Maulana Shaukat Ali and Sri Shankaracharya were tried jointly in 1921. In 1922, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad ji, he was tried for sedition. Moving on, I have told you this much. Let's arrange the following states in the ascending order from earliest to latest. The creation or formation of a state: Telangana, Manipur, Nagaland, Haryana, Sikkim. So Telangana was created the latest among all, that was 2014. Manipur 1972, Nagaland 1963, Haryana 1966, this is something that you have to remember, and Sikkim 1975. So if we go from the earliest to the latest, first among these we will have Nagaland, then we will have Haryana, then we will have Manipur, Sikkim, and finally we will have Telangana. So 34251 is the correct answer. 34251, option D. Telangana Formation Day every year is celebrated on 2nd of June, and through the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, Telangana came into existence on 2nd of June 2014. Article 3 of the Indian Constitution empowers the Parliament of India to do many things with their states, such as formation of new states, alteration of areas, boundaries or names even of existing states. Then the Parliament may by law formulate a new state by separation of territory from any state, or by uniting two or more states or parts of a state, or by uniting any territory to a part of any state. They can also increase the area of a state, diminish the area, alter the boundaries and change the names. Moving on, consider the following statements. The Law Commission is a statutory body which works for legal reforms. The first such commission was established in 1834 under the Charters Act of 1833. Until now, 22 law commissions have been formulated. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? Law commission has been in the news because of the various very fundamental changes it has suggested. It was the one which suggested that we may not need to get rid of sedition completely, because a country such as India is still a new country as compared to other countries. It is important to keep this country integrated. It is a diverse country where people may want to see it separated. That is why law commission is important, it could be asked. Although it's not a statutory body. A statutory body is the one where an act is given, and under this we are creating a particular body. It is an ad hoc body and it is an advisory body to the Ministry of Law and Justice. So first statement becomes incorrect. This is a core concept question. Any body which has been formed under an act is a statutory body. It hasn't been formed in independent India under any act. Although the first such commission was established with the help of the Charters Act of 1833 in 1834. Who sat it? Lord Macaulay sat it. And until now, 22 law commissions have been formulated is definitely correct. First is correct. First is incorrect because here it is written a statutory body. Second is correct. Third is correct. 2 only will be the correct answer. It's a non-statutory body which is constituted by the Indian government so that we can see if we need to make changes in the law, is it just and fair or not. Under the Article 39A, it is constituted, which wants to make justice accessible to all. This is a directive principle of state policy. It's an ad hoc body. It advises the Ministry of Law and Justice. The composition consists of a chairperson. This chairperson could be a retired Supreme Court judge or a retired CJ of High Court, not retired judge of High Court, retired Chief Justice. Remember, either a retired Supreme Court judge could be a chairperson or a retired Chief Justice of any High Court. 4 other members are included and as member secretary. Part-time members cannot be more than 5. This is very important. Remember this as well. I have told you this. But after independence, it was created. The Law Commission after independence for the first time ever was created in 1955. MC Setalvad sat it. Move on. Consider the following statements. Cooperatives are a part of the concurrent list in the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution. The Ministry of Cooperation was established to bring complete uniformity and one rule for all cooperatives. So, choose the correct answer using the codes. See, cooperatives, although the Ministry of Cooperation was brought into existence, but it was to establish a set of laws, but not complete uniformity. Cooperatives are a part of the state list, not a concurrent list. And whenever any subject is a part of the state list, that means this subject is different in every state. This particular thing could be different in any state. So in order to preserve the diversity of India, state list was introduced, then concurrent list was introduced, and a unified list is also that, union list is there, but it's not a part of the concurrent list, but the state list. So first statement is incorrect. Second is also incorrect because here it is written complete uniformity. If you are bringing complete uniformity, you are killing the spirit of India. Okay, when it comes to cooperatives. So first is incorrect, second is also incorrect. Both the statements are incorrect. These are formed at the grassroots level by people so that they could harness the collective bargaining power of the people. This is a state subject in the 7th schedule, and the states, there are certain cooperatives that function in many states. These are governed by the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act of 2002. Part 9B was introduced by the 97th Constitutional Amendment Act. Under it, the right to form cooperative societies was included as a right to freedom. Article 19, Clause 1. Also, it is the promotion of cooperative society. It was inserted as one of the DPSPs. Which article? Article 43B. There are certain key points about it, but remember, no complete uniformity could be brought because it's a state subject. Also, it would kill the federalism. Consider the following statements with respect to the Central Bureau of Investigation. It derives its powers from the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946. The central government can extend its jurisdictions to railway under Section 5, Clause 1 of the same Act. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? If you remember the Odisha train accident, what actually went wrong? This situation was handed over, this investigation was handed over to the CBI. CBI is an all-powerful body. And yes, through the Section 5 Clause 1 of the same Act, the central government can extend its jurisdiction to railways. If you have to investigate the railways, it can be done through CBI. And it derives its powers from the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946. So how many are correct? Both are correct. Both 1 and 2 is the correct answer. It's the premier police investigating police agency in India. It functions under whom? Department of Personnel, Ministry of Personnel, Pension and Public Grievances. I could have written Ministry of Home Affairs over here, as in if I had to ask a question, I could confuse you by writing something Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Defense. Its conviction rate is very high, 65 to 70%. It was established by a resolution of the Ministry of Home Affairs in 1963. The motto is industry, impartiality and integrity. How it was formed? An executive order was passed by the colonial government in 1941 and the special police establishment was created under a DIG, and this was under the Department of War. In 1942, the activities of it were extended to railways. Why? Because railways was becoming increasingly corrupt and Department of War was also corrupt. So in order to check the corruption both in the Department of War and also different agencies, government agencies and the railways, this was done. In 1943, an ordinance was issued by the Government of India and a special police force was constituted to try certain offences which were committed in connection with the departments of the central government. Although it lapsed, later on Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946 was brought into existence. Section 2 of the Act vests it with the jurisdiction to investigate offences in the union territories only. So remember certain sections as well, because section wise can be asked. Questions could be formulated section wise as well. The jurisdiction can be extended to the railways by the central government under Section 5 Clause 1, but the state government has to accord consent. The Odisha state government, if it did not accord consent, then there could have been a problem. Section 6 says that state has to accord consent. So a good question can be formulated through this as well. Which of the following states has declared the right to internet as a basic right? The correct answer to this question from these given answers is option C, that is Kerala, through its KFON connectivity, which is an infrastructure provider. It is an optical fiber cable provider of 30,000 kilometers. It will have 375 point-to-point presence across Kerala, shared with all service providers and also with cable operators. It promises an internet speed from 10 Mbps to 10 Gbps. Quality of mobile phone will also improve. With respect to the National Investigation Agency, consider the following statements. It can take suo motu cognizance of terror activities in any part of India. It can enter any state without any permission from the state government, and it was constituted at the wake of the 9/11 attacks. So how many statements given above is or are correct? Yes, suo motu cognizance means any case need not brought to the NIA. If it is possible for the NIA to look into something, it can take its own initiative. That case will be taken by its own initiative. So first statement is definitely correct. There is a reason the National Investigation Agency is considered more powerful than the CBI, because it doesn't need the consent of any state to enter the premises, as in for the state government. And this is what it makes the NIA a true federal agency. It has been created on the lines of the FBI. Okay, and it was constituted at the wake of the 26/11 attacks of 2008 by the Act of 2008 itself. So first statement is correct, second is also correct, third is not. How many are correct? Two only will be the correct answer. It's the Central Counter-Terrorism Law Enforcement Agency of India, mandated to investigate all the offences which affect sovereignty, security and integrity of the country, and it is more powerful than the CBI. Suo motu cognizance can be undertaken to enter any state without the permission from the state government and to investigate and arrest people as well. It wants to maintain friendly relations. That means those crimes which affect friendly relations with foreign states or that affects the atomic and nuclear facilities, smuggling of arms, drugs and fake Indian currency, and infiltration across borders. These are certain areas where NIA works a lot. It was constituted through an Act of 2008, and investigation of terror-related crimes across state is one of its forte. Without special permission from the states, just under the written proclamation from the Home Ministry is enough. headquarters is in New Delhi. Moving on, which of the following is not a criteria for a tribe to be particularly vulnerable tribal group? Low level of literacy, using of primitive hunting tools, pre-agricultural level of technology, and a declining or stagnant population. It was seen that there is a group of tribes that is more vulnerable among the tribe itself. The tribe in itself is a very impacted group, but within that as well, we have a strata that is much more backward. This is the particularly vulnerable tribal group. These are 75 in number across the country. And it is not anywhere written that in the constitution or any act that these are the different criteria on which we can judge that this tribe is a vulnerable tribe or not, particularly vulnerable tribe or not. So low level of literacy has been one of the criteria. Pre-agricultural level technology, a declining or a stagnant population, economic backwardness, but not use of primitive hunting tools. So this is incorrect. Okay. B will be the correct answer over here. PVTGs are more vulnerable masses among the tribals, and the government of India follows certain criteria. Although it's not written anywhere, it's conventionally accepted. Pre-agricultural level of technology, low level of literacy, economic backwardness, a declining or stagnant population. In 1973, the Devar Commission created PVTGs as a separate category. In 2006, the GOI renamed the PTGs as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. The Shah Bano case is most appropriately related to which of the following articles of the Constitution? It has to do a lot with the Uniform Civil Code, and that is in Article 44. A Uniform Civil Code means we set a common law for everyone, irrespective of their religion. Right now, every religion have their own personal laws through which they follow their own customs. So currently, for example, there are different personal laws. Personal laws cover property, marriage, divorce, and inheritance and succession. Most of the time, the receiver or at the receiving end of the stick is always the women. So in order to ensure that both the genders are not discriminated on any grounds, Uniform Civil Code is a must. It became a flashpoint in Indian politics in 1985 in the Shah Bano case. And the Lex Loci report was the one in the pre-independent times where it was sorted out that the ruler had a very different perspective from the ruled. So they wanted to ensure that laws are there, but these laws should be acceptable by all religions in India. So the Lex Loci report is related to that. The Constitution has a provision for the UCC in the Article 44 in which it is given, the state shall endeavor to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the country. In India, right now, Goa is the only one to have a UCC, although there are certain fault lines there as well. Consider the following statements. Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, Jains and Zoroastrians or Parsis, Jews have been notified as minority communities under Section 2, Clause C of the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992. The Bene Israeli numerically forms the largest Jewish group in India. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? Although Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, Zoroastrians have been considered a minority according to the Section 2C of the National Commission of Minorities Act, but Jews are not there. The first statement is incorrect. And numerically, the largest Jewish community that India is holding is of Bene Israeli. So, second is correct, first is not correct. How many are correct? Second is the correct answer. This was there, a milestone event for Jewish Indian culture in Israel as foundation stone laid for Heritage and Cultural Center of Indian Jews. And we are hosting many different segments of population of Jews. The origin of Jewish presence in India debated goes back to 2000 years. In 1968, Cochin Jews celebrated bi-millennial anniversary. There are currently 80,000 to 95,000 Jews of Indian descent who are living in Israel, not India, of Indian descent who are living in Israel. Jews in India are divided into three distinct groups because of the geographical location they are in and origin myths in the country, where they originated from. The Cochin Jews, the Bene Israel and the Baghdadi ones. The Cochin Jews first arrived in the contemporary state of Kerala, and that date goes back to 50 CE. They were warmly received by Cheraman Perumal. Cheraman Perumal, who was a Chera king. Also, the Bene Israel, they numerically form the largest Jewish group. They are more situated in Maharashtra and Konkan. 1600 to 1800 years of history they are holding. Bene Israeli are known to have originated from the northern parts of Israel. Baghdadi Jews are the most recent or the latest wave of Jews that came into India. Calcutta, now Kolkata, and Bombay, now Mumbai, and Rangoon, they are settled in over these areas. That is Yangon. The 105th Constitutional Amendment Act is related to finance bill, socially and educationally backward classes, exchange of enclaves with Bangladesh, NJAC. So the correct answer to this question, I hope you have guessed it. It's socially and educationally backward classes. 80 more castes approximately from 6 states are in consideration to be added in the central list of other backward classes. And the process is already there. There could be addition from Himachal Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. As I'm speaking, they might have already been added. Andhra Pradesh, we have Turup Kapo community, Himachal Pradesh, Manjra community, Maharashtra, Lodhi, Lingayat, Bhoyar, Pawar, Jhansi communities, Punjab, Yadav community, and Haryana, Gosai or Gosai community. Why have I given you this? Because it could be asked to match the tribes, the groups to which they are related. All right, moving on. The 105th Constitution Amendment was notified on August 19, and it is aimed at restoring to the states their powers to identify socially and educationally backward classes, because it can differ from place to place, from state to state. With respect to the Delimitation Commission, consider the following statement. In India, delimitation commissions have been constituted 4 times. Its orders have the force of law and cannot be called in question before any court. The Chief Election Commissioner is the ex officio chairperson of the Delimitation Commission. So how many statements given above is or are not correct? The Delimitation Commission is in the news for many reasons since then until now. Now the Delimitation Commission is in the news because of reservation. Back then for different reasons. So yes, if we talk about delimitation, the commission for it, it's a boundary commission, also known as Delimitation Commission. It has been formed 4 times in India: 1952, 1963, 1973, and 2002. Okay, delimitation is a process where we measure certain area according to population and consider that area as a particular constituency, so that the representation of people through their elected representatives can be done better. So, first statement is definitely correct and it's very powerful. Its orders actually have a force of law and they cannot be questioned in any court. So, first is correct, second is correct. Chief Election Commissioner is an ex officio member of the Delimitation Commission, but not the chairperson. He is not the or she is not the ex officio chairperson. Third is incorrect. First is correct, second is correct, third is not correct. How many are not correct? One only. The act of or process of fixing limits or boundaries of territorial constituencies in a country or a province is known as delimitation, and this is done by a boundary commission or a delimitation commission. I have already told you this much. Different acts, different times. Also, the delimitation commission is very high powered body. And also the laws, when do they come into existence? When the president gives the date or gives the assent, it comes into date as specified by the president. Of course, the copies of the order are although laid before the House of the People, Lok Sabha, and the state legislative assemblies that are concerned with it, but no modifications can be suggested. Also, I have given you this information about the Chief Election Commissioner as being the ex officio member, but not the chairperson. With respect to the National Human Rights Commission, consider the following statements. The President appoints the chairperson and the members of the National Human Rights Commission. The NHRC does not consist of any ex officio members. The chairperson or any other member of the commission can only be removed from his office by the order of the President on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? First is definitely correct. The President appoints the chairpersons and the members of the National Human Rights Commission on the recommendation of a committee that consists of other people. I will tell you about those other people as well. And our NHRC does consist of many ex officio chairpersons or default chairpersons. The chairperson or any other member of the commission can only be removed from his office by the order of the President on the grounds of proved misbehavior or incapacity. There are other grounds as well. So third is incorrect, second is incorrect, first is correct. How many are not correct? 2 only will be the correct answer. It's a public body which was constituted by the Protection of Human Rights Act on October 12, 1993. It has a complete statutory basis by the Protection of Human Rights Act of 1993 in conformity with the Paris Principles. So if it is asked in your examination about Paris Principles, regarding which statutory body, it's the NHRC. A chairperson could be a retired Chief Justice of India, one member who is or has been a judge of the Supreme Court, one member who is or has been a Chief Justice of the High Court, two persons having knowledge in or practical knowledge or experience in matters related to human rights. President appoints the chairperson and the members of the National Human Rights Commission on the recommendation of a committee that nominates the name. This consists of the Prime Minister as the chairperson, Home Minister, Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha, Leader of the Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Speaker and the Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairman. So remember this please, this could be outrightly asked in your examination. The chairperson of the National Commission for Minorities, National Commission for Scheduled Castes and Tribes, National Commission for Women, these are deemed to be members of the National Human Rights Commission because they are ex officio. Section 5 of the Protection of Human Rights Act of 1993 says that a president can remove the chairperson or any other member if he is adjudged and insolvent, engages during his term of office in any other paid employment outside his work, is unfit to continue in office by reason of infirmity of body or mind, is of unsound mind and stands so declared by a competent court. It's a court who decides it. Is convicted and sentenced to imprisonment for any offense, which is in the opinion of the president involves moral turpitude. So these are the important things. We have to now match the articles and the provisions which are related to these articles. Article 74, the Prime Minister along with the Council of Ministers will provide aid and advise the President. Article 75, rights of the ministers with respect to the houses of the Parliament. Article 76, the duties of the Prime Minister. So how many pairs given above is or are correct? Article 74 is correct. The President, the Prime Minister along with the Council of Ministers, President heads the Council of Ministers, gives aid and advice to the President. Article 75 says that the Prime Minister is appointed by the President and other ministers are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. So first is correct, second is incorrect. Article 72 has to do with Attorney General. The duties of the Prime Minister are laid in the article as in are told in the article 78. Okay, so first is correct, second is not correct, third is not correct, one only will be the correct answer. The Constitution of India says that the Council of Ministers are provided for under article 74 and 75. The words, the status of Council of Ministers, appointment, tenure, responsibility, qualification, oaths, salaries and allowances. Moving on, consider the following. GST Council, Pragati Platform, article 112. How many of the above is are a manifestation of cooperative federalism? Federalism is an important part of India. In order to preserve India as a diverse country, it was important that we give powers to the states as well. So that is why it's a federal country. But we have to cooperate amongst ourselves so that we become stronger. So this is cooperative federalism. When the nation works together with the help of all the states and the union, we get cooperative federalism. GST Council, as we know, that both the states and the union government have a heft in it. So yes, through the help of the states, we were able to ensure that GST is a smooth process. In the GST Council, a huge of heft is given to the states. Voting rights majorly is given to the states. So yes, it is. Then Pragati Platform, through this, we get the information about the status of projects in different states. States are also a stakeholder in the entire process. So yes, Pragati Platform and all India services. Although you will be appointed when you will apply for UPSC, you will qualify UPSC. It's the union government who is conducting the examination. But when you will be posted, you will also have to work with the states along with the union government. So yes, article 312 as well. All three will be the correct answer. Federalism comes from a Latin word, fidus, which means agreement or treaty. So we have to ensure that the spirit of cooperative federalism is strong in the country. Seventh schedule, it provides us with the union list, state list and concurrent list. so that we can know this much power is given to the union, this much power is given to the state, and the remaining power is for both. So this is one of the manifestation of it. We have All India Services and the Interstate Council according to Article 263, through which different states work. Full faith and credit clause under Article 261, which shall be given throughout the territory of India to all the public acts, records and judicial proceedings. That shows that if a law is workable in this state and that state as well, that means we are cooperating in a federal structure. Zonal councils, through the reorganization of 1956, we got zonal council, central, eastern, western, through which we could understand we get stronger together through the help of zonal councils. Pragati Platform, Niti Aayog, GST Council, all is related. Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, 1974, is related to, it is related to the powers of the governor. Article 164 is the correct answer. Tamil Nadu Governor R.N. Ravi's decision dismissing arrested Minister V. Senthil Balaji, it tested the constitutional limit because he worked on his own. Article 164 clause 1 says that the chief minister shall be appointed by the governor and other ministers shall be appointed by the governor on the advice of the chief minister. The minister shall hold office during the pleasure of the governor, but it is not the pleasure of the governor in literal sense. It is actually here the Supreme Court says that the governor must exercise formal constitutional powers only upon and in accordance with the aid and advice of their ministers. In certain exceptional circumstances, the governor can have their own say. So it was the Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, 1974. Alright, now we move to the history course. Now moving to the history section, consider the following statements. Ahmednagar has been a part of the Mauryan Empire. Ahmednagar is situated at the banks of the Sina river, which is a tributary of the Kaveri river. Rani Ahilyabai Holkar has been credited with the restoring of Kashi Vishwanath temple in its current form. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? See, Ahmednagar has been mentioned in a vicinity of the Mauryan Empire. The kind of description that is given there matches Ahmednagar. That means the first statement is correct. Also, Ahmednagar is correctly situated at the banks of the Sina river, which is actually a tributary of the Bhima river, not the Kaveri river. So that makes this particular statement to be not correct. Rani Ahilyabai Holkar has restored many temples. The Kashi Vishwanath temple, along with other temples, were invaded by rulers of different religion in order to pacify the native Indians. And the native Indians used to practice the religion of Hinduism mostly. So that is why the different rulers, because it was not very new to India. Earlier also, kings of different empires, irrespective of religions, had this, you can say, a symbolic victory whenever they used to attack a temple of some else dynasty. So this has been there. Similarly, for Kashi Vishwanath temple, we are saying that it was invaded time and again, and Rani Ahilyabai Holkar has been credited to restore it in its current glory. First is correct, second is not correct, third is correct, one only will be the correct answer because we had to select the not correct statement. On 31st of May, we observed the 298th birth anniversary of the Maratha Maharani Ahilyabai Holkar, and after her Ahmednagar will be named as Ahilyanagar. So Ahilyanagar or Ahmednagar as it is right now, Ahmednagar is in the western region of Maharashtra. Also, we see that 240 BC at this time, the vicinity is mentioned in reference to the Mauryan Emperor Asoka. It was also a part of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, Western Chalukyas, even Delhi Sultanate. Also, we can say Malik Ahmad Nizam Shah. He actually, after him only, this city was named as Ahmednagar. It is on the left bank of the Sina river, which is a tributary of the Bhima river. Moving on, consider the following statements. Pairs. Buddhist stupa, we have to match the significance they hold. Parinirvana stupa, the Buddhist attained nirvana. Then Dhamek stupa, the Buddha delivered first sermon. Mukutbandha stupa, the Buddha met his first disciple. And Chaukhandi stupa, the Buddha prepares for nirvana. So what do we have to see? How many pairs given above is or are not correct? As I have told you that time and again, only books are not enough. We have to move beyond books. And this particular information has moved beyond books. Many books will not tell you about this much information. So yes, Parinirvan Stupa, by the name of it, we can understand it is showing that when Buddha attained nirvana, this is symbolic of that. We have Dhamek Stupa where Buddha, he gave his first sermon. So second is also correct. Mukutbandha Stupa are where Buddha's relics, Lord Buddha's relics are cremated. So here it is written the Buddha met his first disciple. So third is incorrect because at the Chokandi Stupa, he met his first disciple. So first is correct, second is correct, third and fourth are not correct. How many are not correct? Two pairs only will be the correct answer. Stupa comes from a Sanskrit word that is heap, and it's a commemorative structure which is designed to encase Buddhist relics and other holy objects. Not only we will see relics or the remains, but objects as well. There are different kinds of stupas, and it is a preeminent type of Buddhist monument. As time went, it became a monument, and it's a, earlier it started as a freestanding mound. Only a mound was there, but after a period of time, different rulers started constructing borders, decorative torans around it. It evolved in such a manner. All right. So there are different sort of stupas. We have relic stupa, which is the great stupa of Sanchi. Relics, we see remains of holy monks. If they are cremated there, or if they are put there, stored there, then it is Sanchi and it's a relic stupa. Object stupa in Vaishali, important objects that are related to these monks. Then we have commemorative stupa like of Anuradhapura. The commemorative stupa is basically to commemorate a marking event. Supposedly, if any great king visits any place and he belongs to Buddhism, a commemorative stupa can be made, or some other commemorative stupa like giving of the first sermon. So these are symbolic in nature. Another symbolic stupa could be Shanti stupa, that is in Leh. So all these kind of stupas represent different things. Moving on. With respect to the inscription during the reign of Asoka, consider the following statements. In the Bhabru pillar inscription, Emperor Asoka described himself as the Emperor of Magad. Then, the name of Emperor Asoka is mentioned in the Gurjara inscription. In the Kaushambi pillar inscription, there is a mention of a donation by Queen Koruvaki of Emperor Asoka and also the mention of the name of his son, the prince. So, how many statements given above is or are correct? Different inscriptions, when they were inferred, we saw different sorts of information about King Asoka. And yes, in the Bhabru pillar inscription, we saw Emperor Asoka describing himself as the Emperor of Magad. So first is definitely correct. The name of Emperor Asoka as Devanampiya Piyadasi Asoka has been mentioned in the Gurjara inscription. This is also correct. And in the Kaushambi pillar inscription, there is a mention of a donation by Queen Kauruvaki of Emperor Asoka and even the prince. So first is correct, second is correct, third is also correct. All three will be the correct answer. These are the areas where we will see inscriptions that were found, such as Jaughada, Yeragudi, Maski, then we have Sopara, Girnar, even beyond current boundaries of India. That shows the vast empire that Asoka had. Moving on. Along with Emperor Asoka, the names of Mahashatrapas Rudradaman and Skandagupta have also been inscribed in the Girnar Stupa over here. Alright. Also, Sudarshan Lake in the Girnar region was mentioned. And Shahbazgadi inscription and Manshera inscription are written in Kharoshti script. Here, Shahbazgadi and Manshera. That means the script that was used in mainland India and central India was very different from the script that was used in Manshera and Shahbazgadi. Moving on, the elephant's picture is inscribed in the Dhauli inscription. The lion's picture is inscribed on the top of the Kalsi inscription. You can get these questions as form of pairs as well. The Eragudi inscription is inscribed in the Brahmi script and this was written in the right to left direction like this. Okay. A bilingual inscription has been written both in Greek and Aramaic scripts, that is Sherakuna in the Sherakuna inscription. An inscription written in Aramaic script of Emperor Ashoka was also found in Langhamana. Then James Prinsep was the first one to read the Brahmi script. Pre-Ashoka Brahmi script has been traced from a place which is known as Anuradhapura in Sri Lanka. Inscriptions of the pre-Ashoka Brahmi scripts have also been seen from Piprahava, Sahaguda and Rajasthan. So these kind of statement-based questions can be also asked, and match the pairs can also be asked. The name of Emperor Ashoka is given in Maski, Nittir and Udagolam inscription. In the Bhabru or Bairat pillar, Emperor Ashoka has described himself as the Emperor of Magadh. Remember these two, very important. The inscription proves the Emperor Ashoka to be a follower of Buddhism. How do we know that Ashoka was a follower of Buddhism? It was through the inscription of Ashoka only. Moving on. The Life and Legacy of India's Most Controversial King, a book about Mughal King Aurangzeb, has been authored by whom? Hope James, Brennan Ray, Goodram Wilson, Audrey Tushk. The correct answer to this question is D. Audrey Tushk. Okay, so let's see it. Historian Audrey Tushk has written this book, The Life and Legacy of India's Most Controversial King, about Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. She unpacks a side of Aurangzeb largely unknown to Indians. She located his personality in the times during which he rules, analyzing a part of Aurangzeb that is ruthless and benign at the same time. He was not only ruthless but also benevolent at the same time. So she has written both the sides. Every person is like that only. No person is perfect. They are good and bad. But yes, how you are represented by historians matter a lot. So there were certain policies of Aurangzeb that were not sitting well with the general populace. Unlike Akbar, who was very benevolent towards the native population, Aurangzeb was not. And he was also a religious bigot. So Aurangzeb was the sixth Mughal emperor. He was the third son of Shah Jahan. His full name was Mua al-Din Muhammad. He was born in Dod Malwa in 1618. He assumed the title Alamgir, or the world conqueror, because ruling names have to differ. So he got this name Alamgir. Remember this, because this could be asked in your prelims examination. He was basically Puritan or totally religious in nature. He imposed jizya on Hindus, which were actually abolished by Akbar. He was influenced by Naqshbandi Sufi order. Please remember this. This could be asked as a statement based question. Naqshbandi Sufi order. And his son, Prince Akbar, rebelled against Father Aurangzeb. In connection to this, the ninth Guru of Sikhs, Guru Tej Bahadur Ji, was executed. So this can also be a very good statement based question. Remember, connection with Aurangzeb of which Sikh Guru. Alright. The Deccan policy of Aurangzeb, it wanted to contain the growing influence of the Marathas. So he came to the Deccan in 1682 and remained there until his death. He annexed Golconda and Bijapur. When he did that, the wall between the Marathas and Mughals, it collapsed, and what happens, there was a direct confrontation between them. It is said this was the Deccan ulcer that actually created so much problems for him. So remember the point of Deccan ulcer as well. Who has said it? J.L. Sarkar, because it could be asked. You see, this is the Mughal Empire during the reign of Aurangzeb. With respect to Guru Arjan Dev, consider the following statements. Arjan Dev had laid the foundation of Golden Temple and also prepared the map of the temple. He compiled the Adi Granth and he established the Khalsa. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? Yes. Guru Arjan Dev, he laid the foundation of the Golden Temple, preparing the map as well in Amritsar. So first is definitely correct. He also compiled the Adi Granth. Second is also correct. But he did not establish the Khalsa. It was Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So first is correct, second is correct, third is not correct. How many are not correct? One statement only. He was born in Goindwal Sahib, Taran Taran, India. His maternal grandfather was Guru Amardas, father was Guru Ramdas, and his son was Hargobind Singh Ji. Remember all this because this could be asked. Also, this will create a chain in your mind. He was also the first of the two gurus who were martyred in the Sikh faith. He completed the construction of the Golden Temple in Amritsar. The doors of the temple on all sides signify the acceptance of all castes and religions, all four castes and religions, compiling the Adi Granth, which was later installed in the Harminder Sahib. Moving on, consider the following statements. The Deoband movement sought the moral and religious rejuvenation of the Muslim community. That means, was it a revivalist movement? Some are revivalist, that means the traditions of them have to be revived, brought back to life. Some are reformist. Without actually changing the fundamental nature of any religion or any custom. We just reform it a bit. So that is reformist movement. Was it a revivalist movement? We will see that. Then Aligarh movement sought the well-being of Muslims through Western education and British government sponsorship. That British government keeps on sponsoring the university. Also, the Ahmadiyya movement based itself on the lines of the Brahmo Samaj. So, which of the statements given above is or are not correct? We have to see that. First is definitely correct. It wanted to revive the old tradition and moral rejuvenation in the Muslim religious group. So first is definitely correct. The Aligarh movement sought the well-being of Muslims through Western education, and it was very well seen by the Aligarh movement that only Western education could emancipate the Muslims of the country. Still, they did not want to outrightly go and fight with the British. So they wanted British government sponsorship as well. Second is definitely correct. The Ahmadiyya movement was basing itself on the lines of the Brahmo Samaj. That means it was a reformist movement. First is correct, second is correct, third is not correct. How many are not? Which of the statements given above is or are not correct? None of the above. All three are actually correct. The Uttar Pradesh Commission recently, as in June, for minorities, summoned the chairperson of the education department of the Darul Uloom Deoband because there was an issue with the notice that was given by the Islamic seminary directing the students not to get any additional education. It's a prominent Islamic seminary that is in Saharanpur of Uttar Pradesh. The Deoband movement was organized by the orthodox sections among the Muslim ulema. It was a revivalist movement that wanted to propagate the pure teachings of the Quran and Hadith among the Muslims, keeping alive the spirit of jihad against the British, fight the foreigners. Darul Uloom Deoband in Saharanpur district, I have already told you, it was established there in 1866 by Muhammad Qasim Nanotavi and Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. Remember that. Okay. Moving on. With respect to Nolamba dynasty, which of the statement is not correct? Their earlier capital was Chitradurga, which later they shifted to Hemavati. They possessed land that spanned regions of Karnataka, parts of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. The region ruled by them was called Nolambavadi. They were feudatories to only the Pallavas. So we have to choose the incorrect statement. The Sengol, which has been installed in the parliament, the Nandi which sits atop the Sengol, it belongs to the Nolamba dynasty. That is a Padma Nandi. And that is why Nolamba dynasty is in the news. Very few of you must be aware of this. If you're not aware of current affairs, books are not going to tell you everything. So, their earlier capital was Chitradurga. This is definitely correct. They later on shifted it to Hemavati. They possessed, their dynasty basically possessed lands in current regions of Karnataka, parts of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Also, the region that was ruled by them was known as Nolambavadi. But they were not only the feudatories of Pallavas, but certain other rulers as well, such as Chalukyas as well. First, second and third ABC are correct. D is not correct. D is the correct answer. Nandi on the golden orb on the type of the 5-foot scepter, which the Sengol is. It's actually a symbol of power. And it's a symbol of power and justice. So that has been installed. A history researcher, Maina Swami, has said that this Nandi that sits atop is the Padma Nandi, which is a very symbolic, showcasing of the Nolamba dynasty. The Nolamba emblem was etched and sculpted on the pillars of the mandapa of different temples. They ruled in the present parts of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, with Hemavati or Henjiru as their capital. And this was the time when they ruled, 730 CE to 1052 CE. As you can see, he shows the Padma Nandi. Okay. Their earlier capital was Chitradurga. I have told you already. They possessed lands that span nearly 1/3 of Karnataka, parts of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. They ruled extended slightly more than 300 years. Also, they worked first as feudatories to the Pallavas, Chalukyas of Badamis, even Gangas and Rashtrakutas. They later went on to be a feudatory to the Chalukyas of Kalyani. The region which was ruled by them was known as Nolambavadi. Moving on. Now let's talk about art and culture. That is also very important. Consider the following statements with reference to mural paintings. The Vishnu Dharmottara Purana documents the existence of mural paintings in India. These are basically wall paintings we are talking about. The earliest paintings at Ajanta cave are in the cave number 9 and 10. The paintings from Bagh caves in Madhya Pradesh correspond to those of the paintings of Ajanta. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? Mural paintings have extensively been seen not only the Ajanta caves but other prehistoric caves as well. If we talk about other prehistoric caves, there are many. Wall paintings were very common. That was a way in which the old man, that means the prehistoric man, wanted to communicate to others about the happenings of his surrounding. But when it became more pronounced and more colorful, we could see their mention in different Puranas as well, such as Vishnu Dharmottara Puran. It provides the existence of mural paintings in India. So first statement is definitely correct. Then the earliest paintings at Ajanta cave are in the cave 9 and 10. This is also correct. The paintings from Bagh caves in Madhya Pradesh actually correspond to the paintings of Ajanta. That means during the same times these two caves had the paintings done. First is correct, second is correct, third is correct. How many are correct? All three will be the correct answer. The Akhand Bharat mural created a lot of controversy with different countries, specifically Nepal. The Akhand Bharat wanted to show, this mural painting wanted to show how India was in its ancient glory, not any sort of motivations that India has to annex these countries. So that is why this has been asked. Earliest examples of them can be seen in India from the Kaimur range of central India. We also have them in Vindhya hills of Uttar Pradesh. Wild animals, war processions, these were actually drawn through these mural paintings. We could see that. Also, crudely, they were drawn crudely, but most realistically. They were not well defined like the paintings of today, but they were very realistic. We could actually know what was going on in those paintings. Famous rock shelter paintings during the Neolithic times from Spain has also shown us mural paintings. Vinay Pitak, a Buddhist text of circa 3rd to 4th century BC, shows us the presence of mural paintings. Mahabharata and Ramayana also show us that. Ajanta has 30 caves in a semicircular fashion, and it is a period of about 8 centuries through which paintings were done in the Ajanta cave. The oldest one remains the 2nd century BC to 7th, the latest one, 2nd century to the latest 7th century. The Vishnu Dharmottara Puran documents the existence of mural paintings in India. So Vinay Pitak, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Vishnu Dharmottara Puran all show us the presence of these mural paintings. The earliest paintings at Ajanta is in the cave 9 and 10, and the only surviving one is a group on the left wall of cave 10. The paintings from Bagh caves in Madhya Pradesh correspond to those of Ajanta. That means this was very proliferating in nature or expanding in nature, the kind of paintings, mural paintings during those times. Atreyapuram Putarekulu from Andhra Pradesh, that has recently received the GI tag, is a variety of lotus, an edible dish, a toy, or a wearable cloth. This is actually an edible dish. What is a GI tag? Geographical indication. Any commodity that is natural or man-made, if it has a variety, if it has a distinctness or uniqueness because it is originating in that place, gets a GI tag. Okay? And the Atreyapuram Putarekulu is a sweet which is made up of rice and jaggery. Looks like this. Also, the production of the sweet is confined only to the Atreyapuram village, which is on the banks of the Godavari in Konaseema district of Andhra Pradesh. Remember that. Now, Putha Rekulu sweet variety is under the food category. Of course, the acts, different acts through which geographical indication is marked is Geographical Indication of Goods Act 1999, Geographical Indication Goods Rules of 2002. The term geographical indication is actually defined under section 2E of the rules, saying any commodity or product as a natural good, agriculture good, and manufactured good concerning the place of origin. Not only natural, but agriculture and manufactured. If they are being attributed, their quality is being attributed to one region, then it's a geographically, it can be tagged as a geographically indicated good. Moving on. With respect to the Chamundi Hill temple, consider the following statements. It is a Vesara style temple. The Vodayars are credited for expanding the temple from its original plan. It is also known as Kroncha Pitham. So how many statements given above is or are correct? Chamundi, god Chamundi or Chamunda was the ruling god of Mysore, now Mysuru in Karnataka. And the Vodayars are credited to expand the temple from its original plan. That is definitely correct. But it is not a Vesara style temple, it's a Dravidian style temple. Huge entrances, ornamented entrances. Okay. So this is incorrect. It's a Dravidian style temple, not Vesara. So second is correct, first is not correct. During the Vedic times, it was also known as Krauncha Pitham. And you know, it's a Shakti Peeth. Alright. So first is incorrect, second is correct, third is correct. Two only will be the correct answer. This is the Chamundi Hill Temple. As you can see, the entrances are so huge and ornate, which is very different in Nagara style, in which the Gopurams have better. This is Nagara, this is Dravida, and this is the entrance, and we have Vesara. So as you can see, Nagara style of temple, the Garbhagriha has a huge shikhara. But here we see Garbhagriha is under the Viman, and this is also shikhara only, but its entrances are very different from the Nagara style temple. So the Dravida temple is known for their ornate, beautiful and larger than life entrances only. The Chamundi temple is related to goddess Chamundi or Chamundeswari. She is the presiding deity of Mysore, and the temple of goddess Chamundeshwari is a Shakti Peeth. It is one of the 18 Mahashakti Peethas of the world. Also, it is also known as Krauncha Peetham because this was in Kraunchapuri in the Vedic era. 13 kilometers it is away from the Mysore city or Mysuru. In the Skanda Puran, this region where it is situated was known as Trimuta Kshetra. It was enclosed by 8 hills, and Chamundi Hills is believed to be one of those 8 sacred hills. Initially it was small size, later on it spread during the Vodayar kingdom, and Krishna Raja Vodayar III renovated the temple, also installed a Sinha Vahana. Moving on. Now, with respect to Mesolithic cave paintings, consider the following. Panchmadi is an important Mesolithic site in India. Human beings shown in the cave paintings are highly stylized as glorified stick figures, like this. Stick figures. A good sense of rhythm is available in the paintings. So, how many of the statements given above is or are correct? The Mesolithic period was a period of paintings as well, and through these paintings only we were able to make out humans used to do what. And the Panchmadi, Azamgarh, these are certain sites in India that have presence of Mesolithic paintings in their caves. The first statement is correct. Human beings have been shown in the caves as stick figures, highly stylized in nature. Second is also correct. When there is a repetition of the same kind of drawing or same kind of icon in the paintings, it shows there is a pattern, and that pattern, when it is very similar, shows a good rhythm. So yes, third is also correct. All three are correct, and I have asked you this question because a Mesolithic period rock painting depicting a person tilling a piece of land was found in the Guntur district of Andhra Pradesh in the Orvakalu village in the lower river Krishna Valley, and that shows us that these paintings, agriculture existed. Also, rock paintings on the back walls and ceilings executed by people of Mesolithic age that roughly goes back to 5000 BC, and we see that these are the kind of Mesolithic paintings we are referring to. It is from Egypt. That means the Mesolithic period paintings are not only specific to a particular region but almost all the regions. It was the beginning of settled and agricultural communities. Also, the invention of bow and arrow existed at that time only. Development of ceramics, domestication of animals such as cat, cases of dogs for help in the hunt of food. People used to domesticate dogs because they used to go to hunt. In return, the dog used to get food. That is why we have such a good relationship and close relationship with dogs. As you can see, paintings from the Mesolithic period located in Rajasthan of India. This is a wheel that is being shown. Then we have scene of domestic animals and human figures. This is from Bhimbetka, Madhya Pradesh. So all this, through all these paintings only, we get to know what the Mesolithic period man used to do. The most interesting Mesolithic art was, we know, consists of paintings similar to the cave patterns from the Paleolithic era. Remember that. Largest concentration of them exist in the east of Spain. And the paintings of this time change in regards to topics, where there are human groups that are participating in hunt or rituals. So there is a theme for it. Human beings are shown in the cave paintings as highly stylized, glorified stick figures. Also, there is a repetition. That means a pattern is set, which shows a good sense of rhythm. People were knowing what they were doing. Moving on. As I told you, the most important Mesolithic rock art includes Adamgarh, Bhimbetka and Panchmadi. And there are areas in Jharkhand as well. Moving on. Consider the following statement. The Shri Gundicha Yatra. finds a mention in the Vishnu Purana as the most important yatra. There is a total of 12 Rath Yatras. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? In the Skanda Puran, it has been shown that among the 12 Rath Yatras, this is definitely correct. Shri Gundicha Yatra is the most sacred one. So first is, Shri Gundicha Yatra finds mention in the Vishnu Puran. It's actually the Skanda Puran, not the Vishnu Puran. Okay, so there is a difference like this only. This is how UPSC will confuse you. So make sure you know each and everything about whatever you are studying. I mean, there is so much to read. Just make sure whatever you are reading is related to current affairs, if it is pertaining to current affairs only, and it is read in depth and there is a revision of it. Okay, so first is incorrect, second is correct, two only will be the correct answer. This is the Gundicha Rath Yatra as per description in the Skanda Puran. Among the 12 Rath Yatras of the Sri Jagannath, Rath Yatra or Sri Gundicha Yatra is considered the most famous one. It is from the holy city of Puri, Odisha, India, and Lord Jagannath's journey, it is from the Jagannath temple to the Gundicha temple. 3 grand chariots are maintained in which we have Lord Jagannath, Lord Balbhadra and Goddess Subhadra. Devotees gather to pull the chariots through the huge ropes. So this is an inclusive, all-inclusive Rath Yatra. Moving on. Consider the following statements. All medieval European travelers had described 7 shore temples in Mamallapuram. The shore temple of Mamallapuram was built during the reign of Pallavan king Rajasimha Narasimhavarman II. Ptolemy refers to Mahabalipuram as Malange. So we have to see how many of the statements given above is or are not correct. Mahabalipuram and Mamallapuram are the same. Let's begin with that. All medieval European travelers have told us through their records that there were 7 pagodas, 7 kind of vimanas that they used to see while they were traveling to India or from afar. But we see that there are only 2 left right now. So there may be 7. There must have been 7 because many European travelers have told us that. So first is correct. All medieval European travelers had described 7 shore temples in Mamallapuram. The shore temple of Mamallapuram was built during the reign of Pallavan king Rajasimha Narasimhavarman II. This is also correct. Ptolemy has actually called Mahabalipuram or Mamallapuram as Malange. So first is correct, second is correct, third is also correct. How many are not correct? None will be the correct answer. The word Mahabalipuram comes from the word Mamallapuram. Mamalla means the warrior. It was the title of the Pallava king Narasimhavarman I. And Mamallapuram became an important commercial port during the Pallava king Simhavishnu. And here it is on the map, as you can see, Mamallapuram. Alright, now let's talk about the temples. Archaeological numismatics, that is through archaeology, digging, and numismatics, that means the study of coins. We could understand about it being a thriving seaport which had relations with Sri Lanka, China, other Southeast Asian countries. And these were the Roman coins of Theodosius, who showed about the existence of Mamallapuram as a thriving seaport. Periplus of the Erythraean Sea has written about Mamallapuram, calling it a thriving port, while Ptolemy has referred to it as Malange. Huinsang Mamallapuram, he talked about it as Pallava seaport. Then we have also known about the shore temple from Marco Polo's records, which says that there were 7 pagodas of Mamallapuram. Because of their structure, people thought that it was Chinese. Also in 1375, Catalan Atlas Abraham Crescis has called it the 7 pagodas in Italian, like Sette Melti. Sette Melti means 7 pagodas in Italian. In 1582, Gasparo Balbi has called it 7 Chinese pagodas of Mamallapuram. Nikolai Manuzzi has wrote about it 7 China men built pagodas. Interestingly, all have talked about 7, but we have only 2. The reign of Pallavan king Rajasimha Narasimhavarman II, during him only, this was built. The oldest structural temple of significance it is in South India. The 2 temples hold 3 sanctums. 2 are devoted to Lord Shiva and 1 to Vishnu. That is both a mixture of Shaivite and Vaishnavite. With respect to the International Day of Yoga, consider the following statements. The theme for the year 2023 is Yoga for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It was celebrated for the first time in 2015, the World Yoga Day, International Yoga Day. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? First statement is definitely correct. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, has been the theme for even the G20. You have to tell me in the comment segment, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam has been undertaken, has been taken from which record? Okay. And it was celebrated for the first time in 2015. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? First is correct, second is also correct. Both are correct, both 1 and 2 will be the correct answer. This is the ninth, for this year, the 9th International Yoga Day was spearheaded by the Prime Minister at the United Nations headquarters. And the theme was for yoga, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One earth, one future, one family. The International Day of Yoga is marked annually on June 21st. Since 2015, we have the father of modern yoga by the name of Patanjali. Yoga Sutras were written by him, in which there was a mention of different yoga asanas. Which of the following has become the first foreign government to promote country through yoga? Yemen, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka. The correct answer to this question is option B, that is Oman. The Indian Embassy in the Sultanate of Oman, in collaboration with Visit Oman, has produced a video that has shown yoga to show the picturesque Oman as well. People are practicing yoga and behind them are beautiful sceneries. So this country has become the first country that has used yoga to promote their own country, Oman. Moving on, the word Sakht Saz refers to a hymn, a craftsperson, a coin, or a decree. The correct answer is a craftsperson. The one who does Sakht Sazi is known as Sakht Saz, and they are generally Muslims from Kashmir. Let's see. The 7.5 carat green diamond was gifted to the First Lady Jill Biden when Prime Minister Modi went on a state visit to the USA, and this was in a box made of papier mâché. This is a beautiful box in which it was gifted. A papier mâché craft originated in Kashmir region through Kari Kalamdani. It is named after Kalamdan. 13th century Kashmir paper or Khosur Kagaz was the most sought after Kagaz. Demand for Kalamdans for a lot, and Kari Kalamdani is also referred to as Kari Munakashi. Sakht Sazi is mold making, preparing the mold of the entire structure. It is traditionally done by Sunni Muslim craftsperson, Sakht Saz. The drawings on them, carvings on them is Nakkashi or painting, it can be said drawing, even engraving. It is traditionally done by Shia Muslim craftsperson. These are Nakkash. And it is not only on the paper mache. This craft is also used on different Madin Sahib Mosque, Shah Hamdan Mosque, Shalimar Garden in Kashmir. Mughal period doors, panels, palanquins and bed sheets. These all had, craft such as from paper mache, like we see on paper mache. Fayaz Ahmad Jan was awarded the Padma Shri as well for his contribution in this particular craft. Now we move to the last question of art and culture. With respect to Lingaraj temple, consider the following. It was built by Jajati Keshari of the Gajapati dynasty. It was built in red sandstone, classic Kalinga style. The presiding deity here is known as Harihara. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? The first statement in itself is not correct. Although it was built by Jajati Keshari, but he belonged to the Somvansh dynasty and not Gajapati dynasty. The first statement is incorrect. It was built in Kalinga style with the help of red sandstone. The presiding deity here is known as Harihara. So first is incorrect, second and third are correct. Second and third are definitely correct. The correct answer to this question, as we had to select the not correct one, will be one only. Odisha Chief Minister laid the foundation stone of Ekamra project that is related to the 11th century Lingaraj temple. This was launched in 2019. So not only the temple is sustained in a manner, but also the amenities around it are also very good and better for the devotees to develop around 80 acres surrounding the ancient shrine of Lord Shiva. The sponsorship or the funding for it is rupees 280 crore, preservation of various other ancient temples, holy tanks and water bodies. It is associated with the 11th century shrine. Built in the 11th century, dedicated to Lord Shiva. Also, it was built by King Jajati Keshari of the Somvansh dynasty, and the main tower of this temple measures 180 feet in height. It is built in red sandstone and a classic example of Kalinga architecture. Kalinga style architecture is ornate, very decorative, very rich architectural design. Later phase featured simplicity. Earlier it was like this, but later on they were more simple. They used traditional materials which used wood and stone. From 4th century BCE to the 17th century CE, we saw the proliferation of Kalinga style temples of Bhubaneswar, Puri and Konark. These are some of the very important temples of them. Now let's move on to other portions. The linga of Lord Shiva here is regarded as Swayambhu. That means the linga that has, basically exposed itself by coming up and worshipped. It is worshipped as both Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. That is why Hari, Lord Shiva, and Hara, Lord Vishnu, the presiding deity, that is why known as Harihara. Okay, moving to international relations, let's go to the next portion. Now, as moving to the first question of the international relations, consider the following statements. The alignment of the line of actual control in the eastern sector is along the 1914 McMahon line. The eastern sector is more prone to infiltration than the western sector of the LAC. The Spangur Lake lies to the north of the Pangong So Lake, and the Galwan River is a tributary of the Nubra River, making it a part of the Indus River system. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? The LAC is always in the news because China and India are not on the same page. At the LAC, both the countries have been scaling up the deployment and, of course, the infrastructure that could be used later on for military purposes. The LAC, as we speak, the line of actual control is 3488 kilometers long. India's perception is it is 3488 kilometers long, but China says no, it is only 2000 kilometers long. And this is the problem. We haven't agreed to what is the actual extent of the LAC. Like the LOC, we get maps for it, but not for the LAC. It is divided into three sectors. The western sector, that is near Ladakh. The middle sector, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And then we have the eastern sector, Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. If we talk about the eastern sector, it is coterminous with the McMahon line. So the first statement becomes correct. But if we talk about the infiltration, this is correct. The western sector, as I told you, the Galwan clashes are more prone, because of it, the western sector, that is Ladakh, is more prone to infiltration. So the first statement is correct, second statement is not correct because it is the western sector that is more prone to infiltrations. The Spangur Lake, let's talk about the Spangur Lake. Here is the Spangur Lake, which actually lies to the south of the Pangong So Lake. So that is also making the third statement incorrect because here it is written north, so it is south. The Galwan River is actually a tributary of the Shyok River, not the Nubra. Here is the Shyok River and here is the Galwan River. So I hope these kind of map-based questions related to international affairs will be asked. So the first is correct, second is incorrect, third is incorrect, fourth is incorrect. Only one is correct, one only will be the correct answer. Let's move ahead to the next question. Truro Shoal, Macclesfield Bank, Reed Table Mount are situated in Andaman Sea, South China Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea. South China Sea is always in the news again because of China. South China Sea is a marginal sea that can be called as a part of the Pacific Ocean. If we see it from the larger perspective of the Pacific Ocean, it is very significant in nature. So let us talk about the South China Sea. The South China Sea, according to recent data, suggests that 21% of the world trade happens from here. Also, the bounty amount of fish is present over here that leads to people depending on the South China Sea for lives and livelihood. Also, there are so many unexplored natural resources in different rocks of the South China Sea. So that is why this region is always in the news because of all the sorts of issues that occur between China and the other littoral countries. Countries which claim parts of the South China Sea are China, Taiwan, Brunei, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia and Vietnam. As we speak, right now Scarborough Shoal is in the news as well, which is a disputed region between Philippines and China. As China claims the entire South China Sea with its 9-line map, most of the countries are actually not accepting of this fact because South China Sea's this 9-line map through which it claims the South China Sea was brought into effect only in the year 1947. Taiwan actually mirrors whatever claim China is making from the same 9-line map. Okay, so the correct answer will be option B, South China Sea. And also remember that Paracel, Spratly Island, these all are a part of the South China Sea. Consider the following statements. India and Nepal have different perceptions of the place where the name of the river Kali comes into effect. Nepal considers the east of the Kali River should begin at the source of the Kali River, but India says the border begins at Kalapani, which India says is where the river begins. So we have to choose the correct answer using the following quotes. Recently, India and Nepal have vowed to resolve the boundary dispute. We have boundary disputes with Nepal as well. So let us see. Kalapani region is named after the river Kali. Here only India suggests that the name of the river Kali gets or comes into effect. Through the Treaty of Sugauli, British India got certain parts from the Gurkha rulers. It was the Gurkha rulers of Kathmandu and the East India Company that signed the Treaty of Sugauli. That was during the end of the Gurkha War or the Anglo-Nepal War of 1840-60. Through this, Nepal lost the regions of Kumaon Garhwal in the west and Sikkim in the east. And according to Article 5, the King of Nepal gave up his claims over the regions which were west of the Kali River. British rulers recognized Nepal's right to the region that fell to the east of the river Kali. Now, the problem is that Nepal says that the problem that arises for Limpiadhura, this is one of the disputed territories. Nepal says that the source of the Kali River should be considered as the border where we will get our answer for west and east. But India says no, it is actually Kala Pani, from where we will understand that Limpiadhura actually belongs to India and not Nepal. So this is a matter where Nepal says we will take the source of the Kali River to be the defining border. India says no, it is the Kala Pani actually. And because of this, Limpiadhura from Nepal's perception is with Nepal, but from India's perception, it is with India. So Nepal, the east of the Kali River, should begin at the source. India borders begin at Kala Pani, which India says where the river begins. The Nepal's claim of the territory east of the Kali is based on the Limpiadhura origin. And India says the Kali River actually takes the name Kali near Kala Pani. Alright, moving on to the next question. Consider the following countries: Italy, Iceland, Turkey, Norway. How many of the following countries are one of the 12 founding members of NATO? NATO, which was founded in 1949 to protect European nations and American nations from the aggression of USSR. So, if we talk about the founding members, sometimes founding members can be asked. So, NATO has founding members: Italy, Iceland, Norway. Turkey later joined on. It's not a founding member. So, 1, 2, 4. So, 3 only will be the correct answer. Also, North Atlantic Treaty Organization is a political and military alliance. That means it is an alliance of politics as well as the militaries of different countries. 31 member countries are there, and it was established in 1949 to promote mutual defense and collective security amongst its members. How? With the help of Article 5. What does Article 5 say? Article 5 says that if there is an attack on any one of the member countries of the NATO, it will be considered as an attack on all. So we can attack in reverse. Now, headquarters are at Brussels, Belgium. This also you have to remember. And headquarters of Allied Command Operations are at Mons, Belgium. Alright. There are 12 founding members: Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, UK and the US. Remember that. And the latest member is, of course, Finland. It is the 31st member. Now, soon other European countries will also become a part of it. The working mechanism for consultation and coordination on Indo-China border affairs, India-China border affairs, was established in which of the following years? 2020, 2012, 1996, 1992. The correct answer to this question is 2012. Option B will be correct over here. Impasse continues as India hosts first China border talks in 4 years. This was first in-person talk, and it was established in 2012 so that whatever boundary disputes are there with respect to India and China, these can be resolved with the help of diplomacy. And this happens once or twice a year. The venue can change either India or China, and it is in alternative manner. Composition consists of a joint secretary level official from the Ministry of External Affairs and a director general level official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China. Diplomatic and military officials on the two sides. It's like 2+2 dialogue only. In which of the following water bodies does the Helmand River end? Lake Hamun, Zorkul, Lake Chakmaktin, and Lake Ab-i-Istada. The correct answer to this question, we will get it. Why did I ask you this question? Because progress reported in negotiations over Iran-Afghanistan water dispute. This is a news from June itself. The Helmand is Afghanistan's longest river. It is Afghanistan's longest river. Here it is. Lake Helmand is over here. And it starts near Kabul through western Hindu Kush mountain range. It flows in southwesterly direction through desert area and then empties into Lake Hamun, which is the largest freshwater lake in Iran. Here is Lake Hamun. Okay, let's move forward. With respect to Shangri-La dialogue, consider the following statements. It is organized by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization And the dialogue for the year 2023 was held in Malaysia. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? No. It is actually, it gets its name from the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore. The Shangri-La dialogue started in 2002. It is not a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, no. And the dialogue for the year 2023 was held in Singapore. So first, second, both are incorrect. Neither one nor two will be the correct answer. Because at the Shangri-La dialogue, many instances of war were discussed, how impactful it would have for the future of the entire world. Shangri-La dialogue is important. The IISS Asia Security Summit, as it is known, it is actually by this name only. But colloquially, it is known as the Shangri-La dialogue. It started in 2002 by the International Institute for Strategic Studies and the Singaporean government. It's an annual dialogue. Remember, because UPSC can ask you it's a biannual dialogue. No, it's an annual dialogue. Defense ministers and military chiefs meet over here of 28 Asia Pacific countries to talk about the security in the region. Moving on, the Grand Order of the Chain of the Yellow Star has been presented to the President of India by which of the following countries? Serbia, Suriname, Indonesia, Philippines. The correct answer to this question is option B, that is Suriname. President Draupadi Murmu got this award when she visited Suriname. There are 540,000 inhabitants in Suriname, out of which 27% are Indians. And the first sailing ship immigrants from India was by the name of Lalla Rookh. It reached Suriname in the year 1873 on June 5th. And the Indians who are over there, they are engaged in activities such as doctors, lawyers, trade, agriculture, teachers, and also employed in the service sector. The exercise Air Defender 23 is the largest deployment exercise of air forces in NATO's history. Which of the following countries has hosted it? That time, because it was the future tense, that is right, it's the future tense. But I am asking you now, so which country has hosted it? Poland, Turkey, USA, Germany. The correct answer to this question is Germany, that is option D. NATO plans record German-led air defender exercise, and here you see that 10-day military undertaking is primarily based in Germany. And there were other countries also hosted some of the events that were related to the air defender exercise. Germany hosted the major one. Alright, remember this. And some of the tactical and operational levels held in Estonia, Latvia, and that is why this region is very important, and as it is very close to Russia as well, they're sharing the boundaries. Consider the following statements with respect to India-USA trade relations. Imports from the USA to India has increased compared to exports in terms of value. That means we are importing more from the USA in terms of $1 billion, $1 million, or whatever it is, and exporting less. In terms of percentage is different, in terms of value it is different. Imports from the USA include petroleum, rough diamonds, liquefied natural gas, gold, among others. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? If we talk about the percentage, from the perspective of percentage, we have imported more as compared to the exports. But if we talk about value, then we are exporting more value exports to the USA as compared to the imports. So that makes the first statement to be incorrect. And yes, we import these many things from the USA among others. So first is incorrect, second is correct, B2 only will be the correct answer. Bilateral trade between India and the USA, it has increased by 7.65% in 2022-23 as against $119.5. If we compare these two, it is important for us to know about these. And also exports to the USA rose by 2.81% and imports grew by about 16%. But if we compare the value, it was 78.31 billion exports to the USA. Imports from the USA is $50.24 billion. So this is the difference that you have to know. Major export items to the USA: petroleum, polished diamonds, pharmaceutical products, jewelry, light oils and petroleum, frozen shrimp we also sell to them, made-ups. Then we have imports: petroleum, rough diamonds, liquefied natural gas, gold, coal, waste and scrap almonds. Sometimes students do ask me, do we need to remember it? Yes, you do. Moving on, consider the following statements with respect to UNESCO. It was created after the aftermath of World War I. UNESCO is headquartered in Vienna, and United States joined UNESCO at its founding but later withdrew in 1984 due to policy divergence. How many of the statements given above is or are correct? UNESCO was actually built in 1945, as in established in 1945. That was the aftermath of the Second World War. Its headquarters is in Paris. So that makes the first statement to be incorrect, second statement to be incorrect too. Yes. USA not only one time but has left the UNESCO twice. It was also in 1984. It did join during the foundation, but later on, due to policy divergence, it withdrew. So, first incorrect, second incorrect, third is correct. One statement only will be the correct answer. Recently, USA has joined UNESCO back formally, and I have already told you about this much. The basic thing UNESCO does is to contribute the building of culture of peace, because during the times of war, many important heritage sites were destructed. The eradication of poverty is also one of its major aims, so remember that. Then, sustainable development and intercultural dialogue through education, scientific culture, communication, and information. UNESCO was joined by the USA but later on withdrawn 1984 because of growing disparity between USA foreign policy and UNESCO goals. After an almost 23-year absence, it rejoined in 2003. Then again, during the Barack Obama era, when Palestine was submitted as a member of the UNESCO, although it is not, claimed as or declared as a member, a state or a sovereign nation by the United Nations, still it was admitted. But the problem is that USA did not like it. So it stopped funding in 2011, and in the Trump administration era, again USA withdrew from the UNESCO. Later on, again it has joined this year, 2023. So remember this, okay? With respect to the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, consider these statements. Myanmar and Bhutan joined together in 1997. The BIMSTEC Charter was adopted in the year 2022 and makes it a full-fledged organization. So we have to see which of the statements given above is or are correct. It may be very surprising to you, but yes, the charter, although charter declared its, you can say, creation, but as an institution, full-fledged institution, it got a status recently, 2022. And Myanmar joined in 1997. Bhutan plus Nepal. These two joined in 2004. So first is incorrect, second is correct, two only will be the correct answer. BIMSTEC is a regional organization which was actually started in 1997 through the Bangkok Declaration. It was initially known as BIST-EC. Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand Economic Cooperation. Later on, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar all joined. Then in 2022, the charter was adopted, which lays the foundation for its functioning as a full-fledged organization, and it represents 22% of the world's population, 2.7 trillion GDP if we talk about the combined GDP of all. And it is important that we know about them. That is why, UPSC can ask us statement-based questions as well. 1/4 of the world's trade goes across the bay every year. That is why BIMSTEC is very important. There are 6 focus areas: trade, technology, energy, transport, tourism, and fisheries. Tourism and fisheries because these are coastal regions. Trade is important amongst them, technology transfer is important, and these are the 6 core areas. Sometimes core areas are also asked. Alright. So now let's move on to the different one, the different section of today, that is economy. Moving to economy, consider the following schemes: Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, Submission on Agriculture Mechanization, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. How many of the above mentioned schemes will be converged to give shape to the world's largest grain storage scheme in cooperative sector? The government has decided that they are going to build the world's largest storage scheme for grains in the cooperative sector. And for that, they need the help of converging certain schemes which are under different ministries. There are certain schemes by the name of Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, Submission on Agricultural Mechanization, not Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, it is not included. Agriculture Infrastructure Fund is included. Now, why do we need the convergence of schemes? So that different schemes that are working for the same aim, to make sure that food security exists and the cost of storing it gets disbursed and it gets divided among other ministries. So this is the basic aim of it. Food security, no wastage of food, and the amount should be used in an optimum manner. So first is there, second is there, fourth is there, but third is not. 3 only will be the correct answer. India to create world's largest storage for food grains in the cooperative sector. The constitution and empowerment of an inter-ministerial committee had been made to have the world's largest grain storage plant in the cooperative sector. And mind you, this is not going to be one very large grain storage facility at one place. It will be disbursed. so that there could be connectivity first of all. Also, if there is any sort of calamity, it does not impact that one single huge food storage facility. Also, in order to ensure that transport of these food facilities, food grains can take place easily, that is why there will be a disbursement or a division of the facility in different blocks, but they will be considered as a part of this only. And India will have the capacity to store 70 million tons more food grains next 5 years. This is the plan. Also, storage facility will be nearly 3/4 of the food grains that is produced in India. Currently, the country has storage facility for 145 million tons. We will have the additional capacity of 70 million tons. 145 million tons plus 70. 47% of the total production will be like this. And 1 lakh crore is the funding for this particular scheme. The various ministries that have been identified are Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Under this, we have Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, we have Agriculture Market Infrastructure Scheme, we have Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture, we also have Sub-Mission on Agricultural Mechanization. Then Ministry of Food Processing Industry is also included there, because front end, back end, everything should be included. We have Pradhan Mantri Formalization of Micro Processing Enterprises Scheme, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana. Then we have Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, allocation of food grains under the Food Security Act, that it does, and procurement of OPS at MSP. So these are the important things that you had to know. Each of over 7,200 blocks will have a go down, as I told you. This will have a capacity of up to 2,000 tons, and it will be overseen by the block development offices. Also, 63,000 functional primary agriculture cooperative societies will establish, operate and manage go downs. The capacity will be between 500 to 2,000 tons. Moving on, consider the following statements with respect to the United Payments Interface. In the 2022-23 fiscal year, UPI accounted for 88% of the total transaction volume. France, Bhutan, Nepal, Malaysia, Oman are some of the countries which have adopted UPI. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? In 2016, when UPI started, it was seen as a small step, but now it has garnered so much international attention that different countries are adopting it. France, Bhutan, Nepal, Malaysia, Oman are some of the examples. So second is definitely correct. And in the year 2022-23, UPI actually accounted for 75% of the total transaction volume, not 88. So first is incorrect, second is correct, 2 only will be the correct answer. UPI records 9 billion transactions in May worth rupees 14.3 trillion. But another study has also come, report has also come by PwC India. NPCI conducted a pilot launch with the help of 21 member banks on 11th April 2016. This was launched by Dr. Raghuram Rajan, who chaired this entire meeting for it. The Indian Payments Handbook 2022-27, this was launched by PwC India, saying that the UPI will achieve 1 billion daily transactions. On a daily basis, we will do it. 2026-27, because we have a young population who is techno-savvy and digitally empowered. Also in the 2022-23 time, UPI accounted for 75% of the total transaction volume. The Financial Inclusion Dashboard, which was recently launched by the Reserve Bank of India, has been named Sarvajan Antardrishti Dhanvriddhi Sampannajan. It is for the internal use of RBI only. It will look through this dashboard what is the status of financial inclusion in the country, and accordingly it will launch the policies. The correct answer is Antardrishti, option D. Okay, let's move forward. Consider the following countries: Japan, Bhutan, Nepal, Malaysia, Sri Lanka. So what do we have to see? With how many of the above mentioned countries India has signed a free trade agreement? India has signed a free trade agreement with 13 countries and 6 preferential trade agreements. A free trade agreement is an agreement to trade in goods and services between 2 countries or more than 2 countries in such a manner that both the countries have reduced their tariff and non-tariff barriers. Because freer the trade routes will become, the more better it is for each country. So this is what it is. Japan, Bhutan, Nepal, Malaysia and Sri Lanka. With all these countries, India has a free trade agreement. Free trade agreement is much in the news because we are going to finalize UK India free trade agreement, that is why. But there are certain nooks and corners that have to be cut. All 5 will be the correct answer. A free trade agreement is an agreement between 2 or more countries. The countries agree on certain obligations that you reduce this much of tariff, then I will also do the same. This is all in an agreement. So this is of course trade in goods and services, protection for investors is also there, and intellectual property rights among other topics. India has signed 13 FTAs, 6 preferential pacts as of yet. India and Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement, the trade agreement on SAFTA, which is with India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Maldives and Afghanistan, although this hasn't been really in favor of India because of the presence of Pakistan. Then India-Nepal Treaty of Trade, India-Bhutan, India-South Korea, then India-Japan, India-Malaysia, India-Mauritius, all these are certain free trade agreements. Preferential trade agreements are there, Asia-Pacific Trade Agreement, Global System of Trade Preferences, India and Afghanistan PTA, among the rest. Moving on. If the RBI decides to adopt an expansionist monetary policy, which of the following would it not do? Would it not do? So cut and optimize the statutory liquidity ratio, increase the marginal standing facility rate, cut the bank rate and repo rate. Select the correct answer using the codes. See, this is a concept question. If you know the concept of expansionary monetary policy and what are these in concept, then only you can answer this question. An expansionary monetary policy is when the RBI wants the market to expand. That means more supply of liquidity, more supply of money. That means it will, for that, it will cut and optimize statutory liquidity ratio. Statutory liquidity ratio is a percentage of the deposits that have been made in a bank that has to be stored with the banks themselves in the form of gold, cash or other securities. So if RBI would cut it, that means the banks will have more amount in their hand to give it to the public because they are not maintaining it under SLR. So yes, it would do it. It would do the first step if it wants to expand the monetary policy. So this is not going to be one of our answers. If the RBI decides to adopt an expansionary monetary policy, which of the following would it not do? So this is not going to be one of our answers. Then increase the marginal standing facility rate. That means what? Marginal standing facility rate is the rate at which the banks will give money or loans to, the Reserve Bank of India will give money or loans to the commercial banks when they are facing acute shortages. So if they will increase the marginal standing facility rate, what will happen? They will increase the rate. So when they increase the rate, the banks would not want to get loans from the RBI, hence less money and hence no money to give to the public. So it will do this because this will curb the expansionary monetary policy. Second will be, yes, cut the bank rate and repo rate. Repo rate is the rate at which the RBI gives loans to the commercial banks, and this is done through purchase of security by the RBI themselves. So when the commercial bank is going for a loan, the RBI may say that please give me your securities as a collateral, I will give you loan in return for them. And bank rate is the rate at which the banks do give money to the commercial banks. The Reserve Bank does give money to the commercial banks, but here security is not included. So if they are going to cut the bank rate and the repo rate, what will happen? More money will be given to the normal banks, commercial banks by the RBI. That means more money with the banks and then more money with the public. This will become expansionary, this will become expansionary, but this will not be expansionary. So second two only will be the correct answer. I have already told you this. Moving on. Consider the following: energy efficiency, less carbon footprint, enhances crop productivity. Mind you, this particular section consists of both economy and agriculture. Which of the above are the benefit of nano urea fertilizer? Actually, nano urea fertilizer is more efficient than the normal fertilizer. It enhances crop productivity. The way it is made, it is also less carbon footprint generation and also energy efficient. So all three will be the correct answer. IFCO started exporting the world's first nano urea. IFCO invented and manufactured it indigenously. That means it's our origin. An agreement to export nano urea was signed between IFCO and Kapoor Enterprise line of California. Nano urea is nanotechnology based revolutionary agro input. Very small particles but very effective in nature. It provides nitrogen to the plant. It is the world's first nano fertilizer, which is notified by the Fertilizer Control Order as well. Nano urea consists of 4.0% of the total nitrogen. Also, it is produced through energy efficient, environmentally friendly ways. It is giving increased availability to crop by more than 80%, resulting in higher nutrient use efficiency. During the foliar period, for foliar you can say application, it is also used to apply on the leaves. Moving on, consider the following statements. When the equilibrium in the exchange rate is disturbed because of homegrown or domestic factors like inflation or current account deficit, the rupee weakens. When the drivers of change are global factors with money flowing into the US dollar assets, the dollar is said to be strengthening. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? There is an equilibrium. We have to measure our currency against the dollar. So if there is inflation, that means we might be buying more with rupees 10. Now there is inflation, that means the amount we used to buy with rupees 10 will be less. So value of money will be weakened. This is through inflation. This is domestic factor. And similarly, if we have a current account deficit, that means we do not have much money with ourselves as foreign reserves, then also rupee weakens. And this is definitely correct. When people are more attracted to dollar assets, they will demand it more. That means the dollar will become more, we can say, in demand, but less in supply as compared to the demand. So it will become stronger on that basis. First is correct, second is also correct. Both 1 and 2 will be the correct answer. Rupee in the month of June I'm talking about here, depreciated by 8 paisa to 82.05 against the US dollar in early trade, and negative sentiments in the domestic market as well as global market affected. When the equilibrium is disturbed, I have told you this as well as this. The Uruguay Round Agreement is related to sports dispute resolution, trade dispute resolution, ICJ dispute resolution, UN clause dispute resolution. The correct answer to this question is option B, that is trade dispute. India and the USA agreed to end 6 trade disputes at the World Trade Organization. New Delhi removed retaliatory customs duty on 28 American products such as almonds, walnuts, and apples. This agreement introduced a more structured process in which disputes have to be taken care of. It introduced greater discipline in terms of time and verdict as well. With flexible deadlines set in various stages of the procedure, prompt settlement was one of the factors that influenced it. Now let's move on to science and technology. So first question of science and technology, this comprises of general science, science and technology, and defense technology. Acinetobacter baumannii, recently seen in the news, refers to which of the following? A bacteria, a snake, a herb, or an algae? The correct answer to this question is it is a bacteria. It's a gram-negative bacteria, and this has recently got a molecule to fight it. That is the A. baumannii, Acinetobacter baumannii, to fight the A. baumannii bacteria. Gram-negative bacteria are those bacteria which have grown resistant to the drugs that are already in use. Because India is one of the hotspots, it's a good development. Hotspots of antimicrobial resistance, because we as humans also abuse these drugs, as in if we just have certain symptoms, we do not consult the doctor, we go to the pharmacist, talk about the symptoms, they will give some drugs in return, and we start consuming it without our knowledge. And this is drug abuse. So over a period of time, that pathogen will mutate or it will become resistant to the drugs that we are consuming. So whatever disease they might cause, it will not be treatable in the near future. Similarly, disposal of medical waste, if it is unregulated and unmanaged, they can come in contact with animals. Also, animals have been given the drugs. So whatever meat or you can say any product we get from the animals, we consume it, that also impacts us. And that has many economic implications as well. So if we talk about A. baumannii, it's a red alert pathogen. That means it has grown highly resistant to the compounds of drugs that we have right now. The global cost of antimicrobial resistance is expected to be $300 billion to more than $1 trillion every year. Consider the following statements with respect to Kavach anti-collision system. This was in the news a lot, many times it has been in the news because of the Odisha train accident. This was so much in the news, and right now also it is in the news, so you can expect one question. Kavach was developed in collaboration with the government of Japan. Kavach is capable of regulating the speed of the train if the loco pilot is unable to do it by applying the brakes automatically. Once the system is engaged, all locomotives within a 5-kilometer radius will come to a complete stop to safeguard trains on nearby tracks. So how many statements given above is or are not correct? The Kavach anti-collision system that was developed indigenously, not with collaboration with any other country, came into existence in 2012. The thing is, we have to bring all the trains and railway tracks in its ambit. We haven't been able to do it. This is an anti-collision system and it works with the help of satellites only through radio frequency. I will tell you that as well. It is capable of regulating the speed of the train as well. If the loco pilot hasn't done it, it will come into existence automatically. Once it is engaged, all the locomotives that are within the 5-kilometer radius, they will come to a complete halt. And this is one of the beauties of Kavach. So first is incorrect, second is correct, third is correct. How many are not correct? One only, the first one. So 2012 was the year when this was launched by the name of Train Collision Avoidance System, TCAS. Okay, Kavach was developed in collaboration with Medha Servo Drives Private Limited, HBL Power Systems Limited, Kernex Microsystems by the Research, Design and Standards Organization of the Indian Railways. I'm telling you all this because this could be a good question in your preliminary examination. So this is how it works. This is a building station. If the train is coming from one side and another coming is from another side, what will happen? This is having Kavach and this is also having Kavach. What will happen? It will communicate through GPS with the other train. And what will happen? The Kavach anti-collision system will come automatically into force and all the locomotives within 5-kilometer radius, they will be stopped. So this will avoid any sort of collision. Alright. And the anti-collision mechanism minimizes the possibility of mistake to how much? 1 in 10,000 year margin. So remember that as well. Then it is SIL 4 certified and I have already told you how does this work. Moving on. Which among the following is not one of the 3 primary objectives of the Chandrayaan 3 mission? To demonstrate soft landing on lunar surface, to demonstrate rover roving on the moon, to conduct in situ scientific experiments, to develop its own fuel through green hydrogen. So the Chandrayaan 3 was successfully launched, successfully landed and even hopped on the lunar surface. When I asked this question, it was a dream and now that dream has been fulfilled. Now I hope your dream to become a bureaucrat through the UPSC also gets fulfilled. So yes, to demonstrate soft landing on the lunar surface was one of its missions. To demonstrate rover roving on the moon was another. And to conduct in situ scientific experiment was also another. But not to develop its own fuel through green hydrogen. That's a far-fetched dream. So D is incorrect. D will be the correct answer over here. Chandrayaan 3 was launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center to land a rover on the moon through GSLV Mark 3 rocket. Remember, GSLV Mark 3 only has been renamed as LVM-3. So remember, because sometimes you can get confused, even UPSC can confuse you. It's the same, just the name has been different now. Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3 have been very different. How? Chandrayaan 2 comprised of Vikram lander, Pragyan rover and an orbiter. Chandrayaan 3 consisted of a propulsion module, a lander, a rover, but not the orbiter, because orbiter was already present of the Chandrayaan 2 and it was launched with lander hazard detection avoidance cameras. The thing is that is how it was held. When it was landing, through those cameras only, it could see that where it is safe to land and where it is not, because the terrain of the moon is very fluctuative. The propulsion module of the Chandrayaan 3, which helped the lander get over there, also has one instrument. The name is spectropolarimeter of habitable planet Earth shape. This looked around in order to understand do we have another habitable planet like Earth or not. Laser retroreflector array was sent along with the lander, which is a passive experiment to understand the dynamics of the moon system, how moon actually works on the land surface. With respect to Agni Prime, consider the following statements. It is a 2-stage canisterized solid propellant ballistic missile. It is heavier than all the earlier Agni series of missiles. So which of the statements given above is or are correct? Yes, it's a 2-stage in the canister solid propellant ballistic missile. This is definitely correct. I could put liquid over here, but it is solid actually. So UPSC will confuse you like this. You do not have to be confused. It is heavier? No. It is lighter than all the other earlier Agni series of missile. 1 is correct, 2 is not. So A will be the correct option. The new generation ballistic missile Agni Prime, which was developed by Defense Research and Development Organization, was tested in June itself. Agni P is a 2-stage canisterized solid propellant ballistic missile with dual redundant navigation and guidance system. Its range is between 1000 to 2000 kilometers. Remember that. It was tested for the first time in June 2021. It is lighter than all the other series of Agni missiles. Moving on, consider the following statements. FDI in space sector is allowed up to 100% in the areas of satellites establishment and operation through government route only. In space, which was created in 2019, plays an important role in boosting the private sector economy in India. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? The first statement is definitely correct. But in space, which is there to boost the economy when it comes to private sector, the participation of private sector, it was actually established in 2020 and not 2019. So, first statement is correct, second is not. Which is correct? One only will be the correct answer. The center has earmarked $137 billion for Department of Space in the Union Budget 2020 to 23 because of Chandrayaan 3 mission. The Space Department's budget was also a lot in the news. So remember it. We are very famous. ISRO is very famous to develop when it comes to developing cost-effective satellites. India constitutes 2 to 3% of the global space and economy, and it is expected to enhance its share by more than 10% by 2030. This is a through and through statement based question. One could be formed very easily. Also, if we talk about ISRO, it is the 6th largest space agency in the world, holds an exceptional success rate. Okay, with over 400 private sector company, India ranks 5th globally in the number of space companies. Remember, we are 5th when it comes to space companies. Moving on. Presently, FDI in space sector is allowed up to 100% in the areas of satellite establishment and operation through government route only. Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center was established in 2020, which is a single window independent nodal agency, but it functions under the Department of Space. Okay. With respect to aircraft carriers, consider the following statements. The USA has the most aircraft carriers in service, followed by China. Russia has no operational aircraft carrier. I just said spacecraft because we were studying about space, sorry. India has 2 aircraft carriers, INS Arihant and INS Vikramaditya. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? Yes, the first statement is definitely correct. When it comes to carrying aircraft through ships, that is an aircraft carrier, and the USA has the most number of it in operation, which is followed by China. The first is correct. Russia right now has no operational aircraft carrier. The one it has sent for renovation and upgradation, which will be inducted by the end of the next year. This is what the reports have said. So first is correct, second is second is also correct because no operational it is written. India has 2 aircraft carriers, this is correct, INS Vikrant and INS Vikramaditya. Here it is written Arihant, which is incorrect. Okay, first is correct, second is correct, third is not correct. How many are correct? 2 statements only. And this is the region of operation of our aircraft carriers, because Indian Ocean region is very important when it comes to trade, resources, natural resources, everything else. And there are many choke points. In order to safeguard these choke points, we need to safeguard these areas. So an aircraft carrier is simply a ship outfitted with a flight deck like this. This is the flight deck. The aircraft basically goes through this so that it can be combat ready. The USA has the most number of aircraft carriers, which is 11. And then we have China with 3 and Britain with 2. Currently, India operates 2 aircraft carriers, Russian-built INS Vikramaditya and indigenously built INS Vikrant. Vikrant we have developed. Vikramaditya is Russian-built, a 40,000 ton vessel, INS Vikrant is. Moving on, after the USA, UK, France, Germany, China and Japan, India is only 7th country that can build an aircraft carrier. So, you see how we are faring in the world as well. This is a good prelim statement question that could be asked. Captagon, a term recently seen in the news, refers to which of the following? A new cell in mammals, a part of the brain, a pill or a warplane? The correct answer to this question is option C. It's a pill. Okay. This pill is highly addictive in nature. It's based on amphetamine and it is produced mainly in Syria, smuggled across West Asia. The current one is a counterfeit, not the original one. The original was by the German company Degussa Pharma Group. And it is, it was established, or it was built, or we can say it was manufactured to treat attention deficit disorders, narcolepsy and other conditions. Now these pills, like other amphetamine based drugs, they stimulate the central nervous system and they provide a boost of energy to enhance someone's focus. A person who is consuming it can get a sense of euphoria, can stay awake for long hours. Consider the following statements with respect to Defense Acquisition Council. It is headed by the Chief of Defense Staff. It was established post the Indo-Pak War of 1971. It meets once every 3 months to make the necessary decisions. So how many statements given above is or are correct? The Defense Acquisition Council is the highest decision making body when it comes to procurement of defense equipment, and this is headed by the defense minister and not the chief of defense staff. So first statement is incorrect. Then it was established post the Indo-Pak War 1971? No, much later. Then it meets once every 3 months? No. It meets whenever it wants. So first is incorrect, second is incorrect, third is also incorrect. How many are correct? None. Okay. So the Defense Acquisition Council recently as in for the month of June, approved the procurement of armed Predator unmanned aerial vehicles for Army, Navy and Air Force. And it was done during the chairing of defense by the Defense Minister of India. Recommendations were made by the group of ministers reforming of the national security system in February 2001. So a separate dedicated structure had to come into place for procurement of important defense materials to lead to a better time and cost management, to build institutional memory. That means whatever decisions have been taken, they're more streamlined in nature. So this came into existence. It meets as and when required. It's the highest decision making body when it comes to defense military equipments. With respect to Tapas UAV, consider the following statements. It is enabled to carry a variety of payloads up to a maximum of 1000 kgs. It has an operating altitude of 30,000 feet, and it is comparable in the same class as Israeli Heron UAV. UPSC loves to compare our country's capabilities with others when it comes to political structure or legislative structure or whatever structure, even in the case of defense, agriculture, land, UPSC loves that. So make sure you are comparing enough. So this is saying how many statements given above is or are correct. If we talk about Tapas UAV, it has an operating altitude of 30,000 feet. This is correct, and it is in the same category as of Israel Heron UAV. But it is enabled to carry a payload of up to 350 kgs, not 1000 kgs. Okay, so first is incorrect, second and third are correct. How many are correct? 2 only will be the correct answer. Tapas UAV has been developed by DRDO. It's a medium altitude, long endurance unmanned aerial vehicle. Also, it was designed and developed by the Aeronautical Development Agency. Okay, and patrolling and intelligence gathering is one of the important things it does. And also, it can operate at an altitude of 30,000 feet, endurance is of 24 hours, and range is more than 250 kilometers. Maximum payload 350 kgs. Also, Heron UAV of Israel is it is in the same category. Moving on, consider the following statements. Statement 1 says, during a total solar eclipse, the sun's corona is clearly visible. During the total solar eclipse, the moon blocks out the bright light of the sun. Choose the correct answer using the following quotes. Yes, generally by the naked eye in general times, we cannot see corona because of the bright light. But when during the total solar eclipse, moons come in the midst of the sun and the earth, we can see corona very well. So yes, because of the second statement, first statement is definitely correct. Okay, both the statements are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation of statement 1. Option A. Pune's Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics. It has developed the SUIT, Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, for, of course, Aditya L1, which we have already launched. And it is one of the 7 instruments that have been taken by Aditya L1 to carry out different experiments. At Lagrange 1, Aditya L1 will be placed so that it can get the complete view of the sun without any eclipse. Okay, there are 5 Lagrange points. 1, 5, 4 are over here. 2 is over here. 3. What are these Lagrange points? These Lagrange points are those points that are created as parking lots in the space. Because of the gravity of 2 big bodies, heavenly bodies, there is a pull that is being created by both the bodies, which makes this space, Lagrange points, to be something very stable in nature, because the pull factor is from both the bodies. So this is that space. L3 is a very interesting Lagrange point, because many science fiction have told us, writings have told us, maybe there is a body which is just like Earth, and that is why we have Lagrange 3. Moving on. What is SUIT? SUIT is basically Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, which has been designed by the scientists at IUCAA, which I told you about, to study the sun's ultraviolet emissions, to capture high resolution images of the sun's atmosphere, known as the corona. In various UV lens it will do it. Operate in the far and near ultraviolet region. It will cover wavelengths of 200 to 400 nanometers. Moving on. The chromosphere is the layer of the sun's atmosphere that lies just above the photosphere. Okay, so here is chromosphere, that is lying just above the photosphere, and corona is over here. Corona is generally hotter than the rest of the layers of the earth, sun, but this is what we have to know. Why is it so much? It is outermost, still very hot. Okay, with respect to the research and wing analysis, consider the following statements. RAW works in cooperation with the Intelligence Bureau. RAW was created in 1968 to handle India's external intelligence affairs, and currently RAW works under the Ministry of Home Affairs. So, how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? RAW has been, it was established in 1968 when we saw that Intelligence Bureau wasn't able to do anything for certain external matters. So, RAW was created in 1968, and it is actually infamous. RAW is infamous that it doesn't properly cooperate with the Intelligence Bureau. So, first is incorrect. Second is correct. RAW is actually a wing and not an agency, and it works as a wing under the Prime Minister's office so that the Parliament's right to information can be curbed. So yes, third is incorrect, second is correct, first is incorrect. How many are not correct? Two only will be the correct answer. Ravi Sinha, senior IPS officer from the Chhattisgarh cadre, was appointed to replace the incumbent Samat Goyal as the chief of RAW for the 2-year tenure. India's Research and Analysis Wing, which is country's premier intelligence agency, it was established in 1968, okay, to handle the external intelligence affairs. Currently, it works as a wing under PMO, and India's Intelligence Bureau was responsible for all India's internal and external intelligence activities to collect all the military data related to security, but because of the unsatisfactory job it did, RAW was created. Moving on. The head of RAW is designated as a secretary. Remember that. In Cabinet Secretariat, authority of the Indian Prime Minister without parliamentary oversight. And the director reports to the Cabinet Secretary. Okay. Moving on. With respect to the defense industry in India, consider the following statements. India was the world's largest arms importer between 2018 and 2022. The increase in defense exports has been about 7 times what it was 8 years ago in 2015. India exports equipments to Spain, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Chile. So what do we have to see? How many of the statements given above is or are correct? CPRI reports tells us that between 2018 and 2022, India has been the world's largest arms importer. We are moving on to become Atmanirbhar Bharat in the defense sector as well. But still between these 2 years, 2018 to 2022, we have been the largest importer. That is why we are wanting to become Atmanirbhar Bharat, because we are giving out a lot of foreign reserves in exchange of these imports. Then the increase in defense exports has been, we are also getting good when it comes to exporting defense equipment, 7 times more than that was 8 years ago in 2015. So first is correct, second is also correct, and third is also definitely correct. How many are correct? All three will be the correct answer. India's defense exports actually peaked, and this was for fiscal year, if we compare it from fiscal year 2013-14 to 22-23, it was earlier 686 crore, now it is 16,000 crore. 23-fold increase if we compare these two fiscal years. And we are exporting to more than 85 countries. We are indigenously by ourselves, we are producing aircraft such as Dornier 228, we are producing artillery guns, BrahMos missile, Pinaka rockets. Italy, Sri Lanka, Russia, Maldives, Mauritius, these are the many countries that buys arms from India. The increase in defense exports has about 7 times more than what it was 8 years ago. Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, that is CPRI, it has told us that India was the world's largest arms importer between 2018 and 22. It was 11% of the global imports. Moving on. With respect to the Artemis Accords, consider the following statements. These are legally binding set of principles that are designed to guide civil space exploration. Through the Artemis program, NASA will land the first woman and first person of color on the moon, and there are 8 founding members of the Accords, which was established in 2020. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? See, India joined the Artemis Accord this year only as the 27th member, and it was created, the Artemis Accords was established in the year 2020 with 8 members. So third is correct. Then we have to keep in mind there are so many countries, that means it is non-legally binding. If it were legally binding, only 4-5 countries would have been there. This is just an overestimation. So first is incorrect. That through the Artemis Accords, a NASA will land first person of color, that is first non-white person. It could be black, brown, whatever. And then we have first woman who would land on the moon. So it's a very ambitious program. First is incorrect, second and third are correct. So 2 only will be the correct answer. India decided to join the Artemis Accords as the 27th member. NASA and ISRO have agreed to a joint mission to the International Space Station as well. And data, technology, resource and work together, these all are the major, we can say, pillars of it. Bring like-minded countries together on civil space exploration. Remember, civil, not military, because UPSC can distort this word, civil to military. Next generation of lunar exploration will be done under it, named after the twin sister of Apollo. Remember Apollo missions? Artemis is also the goddess of the moon. Artemis Accords are a part of the Artemis program built to build a permanent presence on the lunar orbit. Also, under this, we will not only explore moon but other planets as well. It's a set of non-binding principles, and ultimately we have to make humans as interplanetary species. That means not only interstate but interplanetary. We have to move from planet to planet. It is grounded in the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, and it is an American-led effort to return humans to the moon by 2025. The problem is with money actually. That is why these many countries have come together to make it possible. Why did we stop sending man on the moon or woman on the moon? Women were never sent. This time we will send them. So what will happen? That money is the major problem. Collaborative effort and money is also going to take place. Through the Artemis program, NASA will land first woman and first person of color. These are the many countries who are a part of the Artemis Accords. Okay, let's move on. With respect to the chronic myeloid leukemia, consider the following statements. It happens when there is an injury to the DNA of a single bone marrow cell. CML is slightly more common in males than females, and chronic phase CML is generally less severe than acute leukemia. So we have to see how many of the statements given above is or are not correct. The first statement, which says that there is an injury to the DNA of a single bone marrow cell, it creates this situation, then yes, it is correct. It is more common in males as compared to females, and as one ages, the person becomes more prone to getting it. And the thing is that chronic phase of CML is less severe as compared to acute leukemia. First is correct, second is correct, third is also correct, none are not correct. The medicines patent pool have signed a sub-license agreement with 3 Indian-based companies by the name of Eugia, Hetero and Dr. Reddy's Laboratory, along with Indonesia's firm Brightgene, to manufacture generic versions of Novartis cancer treatment drug nilotinib to treat the chronic myeloid leukemia, which is the cancer of bone marrow and blood. It is usually diagnosed in its chronic phase, where this treatment becomes more impactful. CML has actually 3 phases: chronic myelogenous leukemia, chronic granulocytic leukemia, and chronic myelocytic leukemia. Daily oral drug therapy helps a lot, and since the development of TKI therapy in 2001, it has become manageable condition. No one is actually born with it, but an injury to the DNA of a single bone marrow cell can create it. Risk factors are: for sex, it is slightly more common in males than in females. Age, risk of getting CML becomes higher as one ages. Radiation exposure: in a small number of patients, CML is caused by exposure to high doses of radiations as well. So radiations can also cause it. Consider the following pairs: exercise and the host country. It has already been hosted or will be hosted. Exercise Orion, UK, Tarang Shakti, India, Exercise Iniokus, Greece. So how many of the pairs given above is or are correct? Exercise Tarang Shakti was supposed to happen this year, but it has got delayed and will happen probably by next year, in next year itself. So Tarang Shakti will be hosted by the Indian Air Force. This will be a multilateral exercise. It will bring the forces from 12 nations as of what we have received. So second is correct. Exercise Orion was hosted by France and Iniokus by Greece. So first is incorrect, second and third are correct. 2 only will be the correct answer. A mega multilateral exercise, it will be Tarang Shakti. And France, Australia, US, UK, these are likely to participate. Orion happened at Mont de Marsan Air Base in France. Iniokus exercise at Andravida Base in Greece, hosted by Hellenic Air Force. In April, also Indian Air Force and the United States Air Force, they took part together in a joint exercise by the name of COPE India 2023. This could be asked in your prelims examination. That is why I put it, of course. And that happened across Kalaikunda, Panagarh and Agra bases. Alright. Now let's start with environment, ecology and geography. With respect to cheetahs, consider the following statements. South Africa is home to the highest African cheetah population in the world. The Asiatic cheetah is critically endangered and survives only in Iran.
And the first ever captive breeding of cheetahs in the world was recorded in the reign of Shah Jahan. So we have to see how many of the statements given above is or are correct. Since we reintroduced the cheetahs, they have been in the news, either because of the issues that we are having in making them a thriving population or some reason or the other. Mostly, when cheetahs were reintroduced, this was of course considered that 50% of the cheetahs would die or would collapse. So yes, the first statement, South Africa is home to the highest African cheetah population, is incorrect. It is in fact Namibia that is the home to the highest number of African cheetah population and not South Africa. The Asiatic cheetah is critically endangered along with Northwest African cheetah. These two cheetahs, Northwest African cheetahs and the Asiatic cheetahs, these are critically endangered. There are about 12 surviving cheetahs in Iran in the wild. Other than this, we have captive cheetahs there, but 12 in the wild. So second is definitely correct, and it's only in Iran. Then the first ever captive breeding of cheetahs was recorded in the world during the reign of Jahangir, not Shah Jahan. So first is incorrect, second is correct, third is incorrect. One statement only here, one statement only will be the correct answer. And there has been problems between the South African experts and Indian experts about fencing certain areas where cheetahs are present. Here it is written, India will not fence cheetah habitats because this is not our policy. So cheetahs are the oldest of the big cat species. Their ancestors can be traced back to 8.5 million years ago. Now their number is gradually declining. In the world, we have just 7,500 cheetahs. IUCN Red List recognizes cheetahs as vulnerable, but Asiatic cheetah, Northwest African cheetahs are critically endangered. Asiatic cheetahs are found only in the central plateau of Iran, only 12 surviving in the wild, and they are critically endangered. This is the range of Asiatic cheetahs in the wild when it before extinction basically. So you see in Pakistan and India, almost the entire India was covered with cheetahs except for north part and northeastern part. Moving on, cheetahs have been domesticated. Yes, they have been domesticated like cats or dogs in their houses because of the docile nature of the cheetahs also. Because cheetahs, if you train them well from the very beginning as a cub, within 6 months, they will start behaving like your pet. So the docile nature of the cheetahs is also contributory when it comes to their extinction. In the 12th century, Manna Solasa, we have records of cheetahs. In 1613, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir formally recorded what is known to be the first instance of captive breeding of cheetahs in the world. See, captive breeding is another challenge when it comes to cheetah population. Why? Because these are very shy in nature. The female cheetahs are very shy in nature, so they do not generally breed in captivity. In 1947, the last known Asiatic cheetah in India was shot by Maharaja Ramanuj Pratap Singh Deo, and by 1952, India declared officially that they are extinct. The largest population of cheetahs can be found in Namibia. Here is Namibia. From Namibia also we got our cheetahs. 1/3 of the total population of cheetahs left in the world in Namibia. Which of the following is or are a reason of floods every year in India during monsoon season? 80% of the precipitation takes place during the months of monsoon. Rivers bring heavy sediments or sediment loads or sediments from catchments and inadequate carrying capacity of rivers. So we have to choose the correct answer using these codes. This is definitely true that 80% of our precipitation rainfall comes during the times of monsoon. And this overwhelming capacity of water has to be carried by rivers itself. And during that process, we see that rivers sometimes carry a huge sediment load. And this creates a problem. Supposedly, this is a river and this is an area which is inhabited by people. If it is carrying a lot of sediment, these sediment will start, dislodging themselves and lodging themselves at the banks. And when the banks will be filled with sediment, the level of the water will start to raise and hence it will be flooding at a later phase. Inadequate carrying capacity of rivers is also one of the reasons. So 1, 2 and 3 all are actually the correct answer. Out of the total geographical area of 329 million hectares, more than 40% million hectares is flood prone in India according to the research. Flood related damages are increasing. Also, the average annual flood damage in the last 10 years period from 1996 to 2005. This was what I got from the official website was this much. Also, there is a steep increase in population. People have started to live where they were not living before. Because of the increase in population, they are coming in between the course of the river. So river is flowing as it should have in cases of floods. But when people are living there, we call it floods. Rapid urbanization, growing development and economic activities in the floodplains are also a problem. And infrastructure also creates a lot of loose sediment that has to be carried by the river during their course, and that is one of the reasons too. 80% of the precipitation, yes, they take place during the monsoon times. The problem is many of the rivers originate in the bordering nations. We cannot control it from the source itself. That raises our challenge, because first of all, many rivers, they rise from China, in the northeastern region, they wreak havoc. But the mechanism, India doesn't have a proper mechanism to contact China in order to control the river flow from there. Also, the rivers bring heavy sediment loads from the catchment. These, coupled with inadequate carrying capacity of certain rivers, adds to the problem. Consider the following statements with respect to National Disaster Response Force. It's a constitutional body. It was established after the Kosi floods of 2008, and at present, National Disaster Response Force consists of 15 battalions from BSF, CICF, CRPF, ITBP, SSB and Assam Rifles. It functions under the Ministry of Defence. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? Any body that comes into existence with the help of an act is a statutory body and not a constitutional body. A constitutional body is provided by an article of the Constitution. So first statement is incorrect. It was actually established by the Act of 2005, and Kosi floods happened in 2008. So the second statement is also incorrect, because it was established after the Kosi floods. It is written no, before only it was created. At present, it does have 15 battalions. These are pre-positioned in different states in case of any issues with disaster, man-made or natural. They are pre-positioned to help the people. It functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs, actually not the Defense. So fourth is incorrect, third is correct, first is incorrect, second is incorrect, only third is correct, right? So one statement only will be the correct answer. In the Odisha train accident also they participated. They came into existence, the NDRF comes into existence with the help of Disaster Management Act, and that was in 2005. The National Disaster Management Authority it talks about the policies, plans, guidelines for disaster management for both natural and man-made disasters, both. And NDRF rules on February 14, 2008 made it a dedicated force for disaster response related duty. And it has proactive availability. That means it is proactively available. We do not have to wait for any sanction, and pre-positioning as well. The first major test of the disaster for it was in 2008 Kosi floods. It functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Overall command is with the Director General of NDRF. Sometimes it can be asked about Director General as well, remember it. As you can see, there are so many battalions, 15 battalions as of present we have. Consider the following statements. Amrit Dharohar will emphasize on the importance of wetlands and their preservation and will be implemented over the next 3 years. Mishti is a program that will facilitate mangrove plantation along India's coastline and on salt pan lands. So we have to see which of the statements given above is or are correct. Both are correct actually. Both 1 and 2 will be the correct answer. World Environment Day 2023 was celebrated, of course, on 5th of June. And there was a thrust on Mission Life. Mission Life is a mission in which at an individual level, we have to take care of our carbon footprint. That means if we are using certain materials that is being processed or is being manufactured by using energy inefficient processes, they are creating carbon. So at our level, what can we do? We can use non-plastic products, bamboo toothbrush, we can use bamboo comb, we can use a straw which is reusable, such as steel straw instead of plastic straw. So this is how we can change our lifestyle and hence help the environment as well. Mishti is Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitat and Tangible Incomes. Here it is, Mishti. We are talking about Mishti only. So it will facilitate mangrove plantation along India's coastline and on salt pan lands. A salt pan land is basically a land that was some years ago, it was flooded with seawater, but as the seawater receded, it left its salt and minerals, and that is why we need to reclaim these lands. There is a convergence between Mandrake's, Tampa Fund and other sources under this only. The intensive afforestation of coastal mangrove forest has to take place in the eastern and western coast with Sundarbans in Bengal as well, because we are losing mangroves from there. If we talk about the importance of it, they are very important. Why? Because they sequester carbon, that means they store carbon within themselves. They also help the ecology stability. They support a lot of flora and fauna in cases of cyclone as well. They help a lot by creating a boundary between habitable area and the storm itself and the cyclone itself. So mangroves are very important. Amrit Dharohar will be implemented for the next 3 years. To optimal, we have to optimally use the wetlands, because wetlands are important to hold water in cases of floodings. Wetlands always help us. Other than this, tourism activities do increase. It supports a lot of flora and fauna and hence livelihood. So it will enhance biodiversity, the Amrit Dharohar scheme. Carbon stock is also going to be impacted because water stores carbon. Ecotourism opportunity, income generation for the local community, because they will be included in the entire scheme. Now, if we talk about why does this matter, because Ramsar sites have increased in India. Now they are 75. These are wetlands of international importance. That means in order to secure the international climate, we have to secure these wetlands as well. Ramsar Convention on Wetlands was signed in 1971 in the Ramsar city of Iran, and conserving biological diversity is one of the main reasons it was signed. Flora, fauna, endangered to aquatic animals to migratory birds, because these also visit many areas in wetlands, specifically India as well. And in 2022, we added from India 19 wetlands. Since 2002, we have been increasing it, but 2022, the highest number that was added from the country was 19. Remember it. Tamil Nadu has the highest number of wetlands at 14, followed by Uttar Pradesh at 10. Consider the following statements with respect to tropical cyclones. High sea temperatures of at least 35 degrees Celsius is needed. Wind that vary greatly with height, and sufficient distance from the equator for a spin such as Coriolis force to take effect. How many of the statements given above is or are correct? High sea temperature, what do we need for a tropical cyclone to develop, is 27 degrees Celsius at the least. So first statement is incorrect. And there should not be a difference in winds that vary greatly with height. Why? Because when the heat has to go up, it goes up, forms a cloud. The cloud has to go up in order to give birth to a proper process that will finally give birth to tropical cyclones. If the winds vary greatly, what will happen? That the clouds will not be able to move vertically. They will be drifted away from the wind. That is why we need winds that are stable in nature, do not vary greatly. So second is incorrect. Sufficient distance should be there from the equator so that Coriolis force can give effect to the tropical cyclone, and hence the third statement is definitely correct. Okay, one statement only will be the correct answer. We were talking about back then in June, cyclone Biparjoy that formed as a low pressure area over the Southeast Arabian Sea here. And its intensification created a lot of havoc for states such as Kerala, Gujarat. Biparjoy was the name that was given by Bangladesh. And each tropical cyclone has a name so that we do not get confused between them. 6 regional specialized meteorological centers are there in order to provide contact between these 13 countries. There are 13 member countries to name the cyclones in the Indian Ocean. And among these 6 regional specialized meteorological centers, India's meteorological department is also there. So the 13 countries that can give the names to cyclones that are originating in the Indian Ocean are Bangladesh, India, Iran, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, UAE and Yemen. So remember, because this can be asked. Cyclone is caused by atmospheric disturbance and it is developed around a low pressure area, and it is distinguished by swift and often destructive air circulation. These are usually accompanied by violent and bad weather. Air circulates inwards. Air circulates inwards, remember that. And it moves in the anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere like this. In the southern hemisphere, tropical cyclones will move in the clockwise direction. This is a huge difference between the two. If you remember this, then it will help you greatly in the examination. These are classified as extratropical cyclones. That means in the temperate latitudes, if they are originating, extratropical. And if they are in the tropics, then tropical cyclone. The word cyclones comes from a word cyclos that was actually told by Harry Piddington. He said that it looks like a coils of a snake, the cyclones. So hence, he named it cyclones. The World Meteorological Organization says tropical cyclones are the one where weather system in which winds exceed gale force of 34 knots or 63 km per hour. So you have to remember this, okay, because it could be asked in your UPSC examination. High sea temperature we need of at least 27 degrees Celsius. Converging winds near ocean surface which forces air to rise from the cloud to form the clouds. Winds do not vary greatly. I told you why. Then sufficient distance from the equator is also needed for a spin, so that Coriolis impact can come into being. Now consider the following statements. In the ENSO neutral year, the warm waters of the Pacific are pushed to the Western Pacific, and the North Southern American coasts have a decrease in fishing activities. In El Nino year, Northern South America witnesses upwelling, and due to this, fish migrate towards Central Pacific Ocean. So choose the correct answer using the following quotes. We have to understand El Nino first for this with the help of this particular diagram. What happens during El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral year? That means, well, El Nino is not occurring. El Nino is basically a climate phenomenon. It generally comes within the range of 2 to 7 years. We do not know, the scientists right now do not know when will El Nino come again, because in this particular year we are observing it. Before this we have observed it in 2016. So 2016, after that, after 7 years we got El Nino again. 2023 very strong one, and that is why it was so hot this year. And in neutral year, when El Nino is not there, what happens? That here is development of warm water, but due to the winds that are blowing westwards, these are very strong westward winds, it will move towards West Pacific, and the cold water that is beneath this warm water, when it is moving away, the cold water will start upwelling, moving upwards. When this cold water comes upwards, it carries a lot of nutrients for the fish, and the fish start to eat it, they generate more, and what will happen? There will be a lot of fisheries over here, so it will be very good for the fishermen in North South African region. Okay, so that makes the first statement to be incorrect. Here it is written that coasts have a decrease in fishing activity. No. Then El Nino year, Northern South America witnesses upwelling. No, upwelling is only witnessed in the El Nino neutral year, when El Nino is not there. Okay, and when El Nino is there, what do we see? That these warm water, what they have formed over here, because of the weakening of the westward blowing wind, they stay there. And when they stay there, the fisheries which are dependent on cold water nutrients, they are not able to have it because of the presence of warm water. So fishes start to collapse. The entire system starts to collapse. Also, there will be a lot of rainfall over here, giving rise to flooding and hence diseases. And here we will observe drought in Indonesia, Australia, etc. So this is El Nino year. Okay, this causes a problem. So what happens? Both the statements are actually incorrect. This is also incorrect. This is also incorrect. Okay, there is no such thing like this. Statement 2. I hope you understood it. Moving on. Let's talk about this question. What is the theme of World Ocean Day 2023? The planet, oceans changing tide, the safety of ocean life, ocean warming, a threat to all, the life in one ocean. The correct answer is planet, oceans changing tide, option A, because sometimes themes can also be asked. June 8th, we observe the World Ocean Day. The oceans cover about 70% of the Earth's surface. They are important because they store a lot of carbon. And the theme of this year's World Ocean Day emphasizes the necessity of a global effort. Because India, specifically, if we talk about India only, we are heavily dependent on oceans because of huge coastline that India shares, and fishermen are having their livelihoods that are dependent over it. Our export capacity is also dependent over it. To protect the invaluable sources of our planet, it is important. Oceans are responsible for at least 50% of Earth's oxygen production, and over a billion people globally rely on that. In reference to ghadials, consider the following statements. Ghadials are found only in India, Nepal and Bangladesh. Ghadials are listed as critically endangered by the IUCN Red List. Only the river Chambal has a natural surviving population of ghadial. So how many of the statements given above is or are not correct? Ghadial get their names from the word ghada because of their snout. It is like this. And this is ghadial. I'm really sorry, my art is not very good. You will get the diagram.
So their snout is very long, and what happens, that gives them the name ghadial. So with the help of their snout, they are able to catch a lot of fish. They're very, good fishermen. Fisher crocodiles, crocodilian. Okay, so ghadials are found not only in India but also Nepal, but not in Bangladesh. Earlier they were found in Bangladesh, but not anymore. So India and Nepal it should be. First statement is not correct. Yes, they are listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List, sadly. So second is correct. No, apart from river Chambal, there are other river systems as well in which it is found. So first is incorrect, third is incorrect, second is correct. How many are not correct? Two statements only. Los Angeles Zoo had signed a pact with the Bihar government to and the Wildlife Trust of India to secure gharials. So gharial are actually listed in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act and critically endangered in the IUCN Red List. This is the only crocodilian that is visibly sexually dimorphic. What is that? That means the male and female, depending on their sex, of course, they are different visibly. And this is the only crocodilian to be that. So remember this. The species are largely piscivorous of all extant crocodiles. That means they are heavily dependent on fish. They eat fish. And these are most efficient fish catchers. They prefer deep, fast-flowing waters. However, adult gharials have been observed in still water branches as well, in comparatively velocity-free aquatic environments of deep holes at river beds and confluences as well. Historically, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and southern part of Bhutan and Nepal, we all had gharials. Today they survive only in the waters of India and Nepal. The different rivers in which they are found naturally: Girwa, Son, Ramganga, Gandak, Chambal and Mahanadi. Remember that. Okay. Consider the following statements with respect to the landfall of a cyclone. That means when it crosses over from the water to the land. A tropical cyclone is classified as making a landfall when the center of the storm, that is eye of the storm, moves across the coast. Maximum sustained wind will naturally increase as the cyclone moved inland due to frictional differences between water and land with free atmosphere. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Okay. So a tropical cyclone is generally classified to make a landfall, but is when it is moving across from the sea to the land, and that creates friction. And when there will be friction, generally friction is less in water, more on land, what will happen? The wind speeds will decrease. So what is the correct answer to be this? First is definitely correct. Second is not correct because it is not going to increase. The wind speed will not increase. Due to increased friction, the wind speed will decrease and hence it will end eventually. So first is correct, second is not correct. One only will be the correct answer. This cyclone likely, we were talking about Biparjoy in the previous question as well, few previous question, and now it has made a landfall. Also, it is the second strongest cyclone in the Arabian Sea after Taukte. We are witnessing Arabian Sea has started to give us more cyclones. Historically comparatively, Bay of Bengal was the more active one to produce cyclones, but now Arabian Sea has started to do it. This is nothing but increase in climate change. It is increasing the heat capacity, retention of Arabian Sea. That is why we are witnessing more cyclones. Landfall is the event of tropical cyclone coming onto the land after being over water. And that creates friction. Friction means reducing the speed of the wind. Okay, moving on. I have mostly told you everything from here. Consider the following pairs: goal number and sustainable development goal. Goal number 10, sustainable cities and communities. 8, affordable and clean energy. 15th, reduced inequality. See, you have to make sure that you know very basic things as well. Sometimes we start to learn such in-depth things, we forget about the basic things. Very superficial questions could also be put by the UPSC. Do not think that it is going to ask you very in-depth questions only. So remember, but I must tell you all the 3 pairs are incorrect. None of the pairs will be the correct answer, because if we talk about goal number 10, and as I show you here, it is reduced inequalities. Here it is written for goal number 15. Let's talk about goal number 8. Goal number 8 is generally what? Decent work and economic growth. But here it is affordable and clean energy. Affordable and clean energy is basically goal number 7. So these kind of questions could also be asked. Then we have goal number 15, right? Goal number 15, let's see what is goal number 15. It is life on land. Here it was written what? Reduced inequalities. Okay, none of the pairs are correct. So consider the following statements. The mean global temperature in 2022 was about 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. Here, even it has been reached for 1 month. We can consider it.
2015 to 2022 are the 8 warmest years on record. And an exceptionally strong El Nino event occurred in 2016, which contributed to record global temperatures. So, how many of the statements given above is or are correct? During the course, when I was telling you about El Nino, I told you after 2016 we observed El Nino for the current year 2023. And 2023 as well was very warm. Look at your electricity bills. So, the mean temperature, global temperature for the year 2022 has been breached for the first time for summer months. It has occurred and it was more than 1.5 degrees Celsius as compared to the pre-industrial level. Generally, it used to happen in 2015. It was the first time it happened that it was breached, this temperature level of 1.5 degrees Celsius, but it was for the winters. Generally, we are seeing it for the winters. But for 2022, it was for the first time we saw it in summers. So first statement is correct. And 2015 to 2022 have been the 8 warmest years on record. This is also correct. An exceptionally strong El Nino occurred in 2016, which resulted in record temperatures for the globe. The first is correct, second is correct, third is also correct. All 3 statements will be the correct answer. European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast has told us certain things. For the first few days of June, global mean temperatures were more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. The first time the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold was breached in the summer months. Daily global temperature exceeding pre-industrial averages have been there, but for winters only. This threshold was first exceeded in December 2015, then repeatedly in the northern hemisphere winters and springs of 2016 and 2020. 2022 is the 8th consecutive year, that means continuous year, that annual global temperatures have reached at least 1.5 degrees Celsius or above. If we talk about the top 3, 2016, 2019, 2020. An exceptionally strong El Nino event occurred in 2016, resulting in global temperatures to be recorded at such a high rate. Also, the persistence of cooling La Nina event means that 2022 is only the 5th or 6th warmest. Can you imagine? Moving on. Consider the following statements with respect to groundwater. In India, the hard rock aquifers are the ones that store water, are found mostly in central India. Punjab, Haryana, and Rajasthan are the only states in India where groundwater extraction is more than 100%. So, which of the statements given above is or are correct? The second statement is definitely correct. You can understand it from the conceptual clarity as well, because these states are highly dependent on agriculture and they continue to extract groundwater. We are continuing to extract groundwater at such a great level that it is not being able to replenish. The water precipitation is not able to refresh the groundwater that is stored. The groundwater basically means the water that is stored below the ground, and generally gravel, sandstone, limestone, these all store water. In India, hard rock aquifers are mostly found in central peninsular India. So yes, first is correct. Second is also correct. These are the only 3 states where extraction has been more than 100%. The national average is 60%. Okay, both the statements are correct. Both 1 and 2 will be the correct answer. Groundwater which has been pumped and moved somewhere else has resulted in the tilting of the Earth's axis nearly 80 centimeter to the east. Yes, that can happen. And nearly 2150 billion tons of groundwater has been pumped and drained into the oceans in 1993-2010. It's the water that seeps through the rocks and soil and stored below the ground. The point where we are reaching this water is known as water table, and where it is being filled is known as saturated zone. It is filled with water. Okay, hard rock aquifers in India, 65% of them it is, and these are mostly found in central India. They have poor permeability and non-replenishment. That means the water cannot move very smoothly into the ground. They cannot be replenished for that very matter. Gangetic and Indus plains in the northern India, here we are seeing excessive groundwater extraction. And as I told you, Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan are some of the states, are the only states actually that have had extracted more than 100% of groundwater. Generally, it is for irrigation, domestic and industry purposes. With respect to heat wave, consider the following statements. Heat wave may be described provided actual maximum temperature is 37 degrees Celsius or more for plains. The peak month of heat wave in India is May. So which of these statements given above is or are not correct? Heat wave can be both quantitative, qualitative. Qualitative is when the heat becomes fatal to the human body. Quantitative is when we are measuring a temperature threshold in order to understand
what is the temperature, and accordingly we designate any month to be a victim of heat wave. And generally in India it is for the highest peak is for May. So yes, second is correct. And heat wave may be described provided actual maximum temperature for the station in plains is 40 degrees Celsius or more and not 37. First is incorrect, second is correct, which is not correct, first is not correct. So heat waves is considered if maximum temperature of a station at the plains reach 40 degrees Celsius or more and 30 degrees Celsius or more for the hilly regions. It generally occurs from March to June and May is the peak month. Alright, moving on to the next question. This is a national park and a tiger reserve bordering the Bandipur Tiger Reserve to the south and the Kabini River to the north. It was established in 1955 as a wildlife sanctuary. In 1999, it was declared a tiger reserve under the Project Tiger initiative, which was started in 1973. So which of the following protected areas in the above paragraph we are referring to? We are actually talking about the Nagar Hole Tiger Reserve here. It's a national park and a tiger reserve which is situated in the southwestern part of Karnataka, and this region, as you see, is very protected in nature. Lots of biodiversity is there. It borders the Bandipur to the south and Kabini to the north. It was established in 1955, then it was a wildlife sanctuary. In 1988, it was declared as a national park, and in 1999 as a tiger reserve under the initiative. With respect to leatherback turtle, which of the statements given below is not correct? They are the largest among all the sea turtle species. The leatherback turtle is listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List of threatened species. Leatherbacks nest just one time during nesting season, and they are the only species of sea turtles that lack scales. So the incorrect answer to this question, let us find out. They are, yes, the largest among all the sea turtle species. This is definitely correct, and they are very, very soft and how do I define it? I am not getting the correct word. Very nice to touch, and also they are the only species of sea turtles that do not have scales, and these are listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List. This is also correct. So they just not nest one times during the nesting season, but several times. C will be the correct answer over here. These are named for their shell itself. How beautiful they are. Look at it. Which is leather-like rather than hard. It's leather-like. It's not completely hard. Also, these are the only species of sea turtles that have scales, that do not have scales, lack scales, and a hard shell. These have leather-like shells. They are the largest sea turtle species, also one of the most migratory. They migrate a lot many ways and in lot many regions. The global population has sadly declined 40%. They are critically endangered. Female leatherback turtles, they return to nest every 2 to 4 years, and they nest several times during the nesting season, typically at 8 to 12 day intervals, and lay clutches of approximately 100 eggs. Earlier, this was the range. Still, some of the leatherback turtles are found in this region. Moving on, with respect to rainforest, consider the following statements. Temperate rainforests are not as biologically diverse as tropical rainforest. Rainforests now make up only 6% of the Earth's surface area-wise. Arunachal Pradesh has the largest forest cover in India. So how many of the statements given above is or are correct? So if we talk about temperate rainforest, this is correct. As they are found in the temperate region, and tropical region rainforests are much more biologically diverse. So temperate rainforests are not as biologically diverse as tropical rainforest. So this is definitely correct. They make up just 6% of the Earth's surface, yet they are able to sequester and store a lot of carbon and support so much flora and fauna. Area-wise, it is actually Madhya Pradesh that has the largest forest cover in India, which is followed by Arunachal Pradesh. First is correct, second is correct, third is not correct, two only will be the correct answer. Rainforest Day was launched for the first time in 2017. You have to tell me in the comment segment what date it was. Despite covering just 6% of the Earth's surface, they are doing a lot for us. They are home to around 50% of all the terrestrial biodiversity. They regulate global climate patterns. They absorb a lot amount of carbon dioxide. Tropical rainforest, of course, by the name we can say that these are located between the North and South tropics, Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. So Central and South America, Western and Central Africa, Western India, Southeast Asia, island of New Guinea, as well as Australia. You see, these are our tropical rainforest. Also, the temperature here is 21 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. Average humidity is a lot, and 200 to 1000 centimeter rainfall it receives per year. Most biologically diverse terrestrial ecosystem it is. And the Amazon rainforest is the world's largest tropical rainforest.
Temperate are colder as compared to the tropicals. These are found in coastal or mountainous regions as well, and these are in the mid latitudes. They also receive high rainfall. Coast of Pacific, Northwest in North America. As you can see, these are the areas where we find temperate rainforest. Their name implies they are cooler. 10 degrees Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius is their average temperature. They are less sunny and rainy, just 150 to 500 centimeter of rain per year. And these are not as biological drivers as tropical rainforest. Madhya Pradesh is the state with the largest forest cover if we talk about area wise. Then we have Arunachal Pradesh. Now, if you want to get the PDF of this, make sure that you subscribe to my Telegram channel. That is by the name of Pooja Dwivedi UPSC. I shall meet you again soon with the current affairs marathon for the month of July. Okay, so take care and stay updated.